I faked my own death as the villainess to let the story's main leads live in peace. Now, cathedral bells chime across the capital as a joyful crowd gathers outside the high doors. Everything was supposed to end happily. Saintess Genevieve steps into the sunlight alongside Duke Shane Blanchard to cheering onlookers. The crowd roars in excitement, calling out, "That's the sword of the Empire, Duke Blanchard!" He walks with steady composure, fulfilling his role as her guardian. Nobles murmur in admiration, whispering that his noble face practically glows under the sun. Who wouldn't be charmed by such a handsome war hero? People readily agree that only the saintess is worthy of standing at his side. Rumors of their wedding fill the air. Townspeople bring up his former fiancé, who died 5 years ago, carelessly calling her passing a stroke of luck for the empire. Under a heavy hood, the exiled Villainess hears every cruel word. She pulls her cloak close, concealing the identity everyone assumes was lost forever. Giving up her name was painful, but seeing him prosper makes the sacrifice feel complete. Looking toward him one last time, she softly whispers, "I'm glad to see he's doing well." Shane Blanchard was her fiancé 5 years ago, but she had no choice but to walk away without telling him why. Their engagement was just a contract after all, destined to fade once the story's true leads met. Shane and the saintess were always meant to reach their happy ending, while she remained the villainess who tormented them. Hearing onlookers shout, "May the two of you be happy forever," feels like proof that her sacrifice worked. "If he doesn't want her, I do." Pulling her hood close, she softly whispers a final farewell. "Yes, this is enough." Wishing Shane a healthy life from afar, she turns around, fully convinced she's successfully changed the world's ending. Sounds simple, right? Beside him, Saintess Genevieve hesitates, nervously asking about the upcoming banquet guests. But Shane completely tunes her out. His sharp blue eyes scan the crowd, searching for a presence that vanished long ago. Melting quietly into the bustling city streets, she begins her journey far away from the capital. She assumes her sacrifice is complete, yet it won't take long for her to realize just how wrong she really was. Edeline Bertrand remembers her past life, but as the only daughter of Marquis Bertrand, she grew up wrapped in affection. Her parents cherished her dearly, while her 2 older brothers watched over her as reliable protectors. Warmth filled her world. Carefree days passed as panicked maids chased her around the estate, calling out, "Lady Edeline, please don't run." Yet despite all the warmth, a subtle anxiety stayed with her. Could she ever fully belong in this world? Everything shifted the day her parents formally gathered in the main parlor to introduce her future husband. Standing opposite her was young Duke Shane Blanchard, a quiet boy with striking blue eyes and a remarkably solemn composure. Offering a polite smile among roses, he greeted her, saying, "I look forward to our future together." Edeline's heart fluttered as her cheeks flushed pink. Honestly, who wouldn't be charmed? He looked like a prince straight out of a storybook. At first, carrying memories of another life made a childhood engagement feel awkward. But running hand in hand through sunny gardens under clear blue skies, Edeline grew deeply attached to him. Their bond blossomed effortlessly. With young Shane constantly by her side, all her lingering anxieties quickly melted away. Hand in hand, the two spent endless seasons exploring sunny streets and playing under snowy skies, allowing Edeline to finally feel completely at home in this world. Resting her chin on her hands, Edeline excitedly confides her secret plan to travel across the empire, revealing her hidden emergency funds. Yet while she chatters away, Shane gazes into the distance with a hollow look. Is there something troubling him that she hasn't noticed? The painful truth dawns on her during his mother's funeral service. Standing amongst white lilies, Edeline listens to heartless guests whisper that the Duchess never kept her unchildlike son close. She finally understands the heavy burden he carries. Honestly, my heart breaks for him. No matter how mature he acts, he remains a grieving boy, left standing alone before the coffin. He quietly swallows every cruel remark with a blank stare. Unable to watch him suffer in silence, Edeline's hand hesitates as she slowly reaches out toward his back. Edeline suddenly throws her arms around young Shane, taking him completely off guard. Seeing him silently suppress his grief breaks her heart. She bursts into tears before he can. Holding him tight, she tearfully whispers, "You don't have to pretend to be an adult right now. You can cry." Shane gently holds her shoulders and forces a soft smile, trying to convince her he is fine, but seeing his brave front only makes Edeline sob louder. Why is he the one offering comfort right now? Seriously, my heart breaks for this poor boy. Clinging tightly to him, she softly promises, "I'll stay by your side, Shane." People often trick themselves into believing they are fine during great tragedy, but that never makes the pain vanish. Looking right into his eyes, she assures him he won't face this alone. Finally letting his guard down, Shane embraces her back and softly whispers, "Thank you, Edeline." Hand in hand, they supported each other through every passing year. Their future seemed bright and certain, until a single newspaper article at age 9 altered her world forever. Reading through an old magic text in her room, 9-year-old Edeline stumbles across a familiar prophecy. A saintess appears once every 100 years to save the empire from destruction. The sudden realization leaves her breathless. This history matches a fantasy novel from her past life. Could she really have been reincarnated into that story? It was a classic romance about a saintess who purifies monster poison alongside her loyal guardian Duke. But reading a fresh news report about a young swordsmanship champion, her blood runs cold. Is that really him? The story's heroic male lead is none other than her childhood fiancé, Shane Blanchard. Standing opposite her handsome fiancé, her own role in the original plot becomes painfully clear. Edeline isn't the beloved heroine at all. She is destined to become the jealous villainess who torments the main leads until her own tragic execution. Talk about an absolute nightmare. In a world threatened by ferocious beasts, only the awakened saintess possesses the divine power to cleanse demonic poison and save humanity. How can a doomed villainess ever hope to change such a cruel destiny? Her peaceful life is about to shatter. A terrifying truth hidden within the prophecy suddenly becomes clear. The saintess only awakens once the villainess dies. Edeline's own tragic end is the required sacrifice to save the empire from destruction. The story is completed through her death. Sitting at the lunch table, young Shane notices her sudden silence and gently asks, "Edeline, what are you thinking so deeply about?" He offers a warm smile, inviting her to walk through the garden after lunch. But gripping the newspaper, she freezes in silent terror, leaving him calling out her name. Can she really escape this doomed fate? Late at night, Shane knocks softly on Edeline's bedroom door. He stands alone outside in the quiet hallway, utterly bewildered by her sudden coldness. "Did I do something to upset you?" he asks softly, desperate to understand why she suddenly demanded to break off their long-standing engagement. On the other side of the door, Edeline huddles under her blankets in total darkness. Tears stream down her cheeks as she tries to muffle her quiet sobs. "I had no other choice," she whispers to herself. Can she really bear pushing away the person she loves? Shane freezes outside, his raised hand stalling mid-knock as her tearful voice cuts through the heavy wood. She begs him to leave, pleading, "Please don't act so friendly with me anymore." He stands in silence, completely crushed. Honestly, my heart aches for the poor guy. Edeline weeps silently, recalling the tragic plot of the original story. She convinces herself that pushing Shane away will speed up his fateful encounter with the saintess, unlocking salvation without requiring her own execution. She swallows her sorrow, praying he finds happiness while she escapes her doomed ending. Rain lashes relentlessly against the dark mansion windows as night settles over the room. Fate, however, is far crueler than she imagined. While Edeline lies fast asleep in her bed, heavy footsteps creep violently from the shadows toward her bedside. Is her quiet sanctuary already in danger? Edeline startles awake in the dark room, hearing suspicious footsteps creeping toward her bed. Before she can even sit up, a sinister boy with glowing red eyes lunges forward, plunging a sharp dagger straight into her chest. She bolts upright with a frantic scream, gasping for air, as morning light floods her room. Clutching her forehead, Edeline tries to calm her racing pulse. "That was just a dream," she whispers to herself in relief. Yet ever since she declared her wish to break the engagement, endless nightmares have tormented her sleep. How many more days can she survive this terrifying cycle? Every single vision forces her to relive a gruesome demise. In one dream, succeeding in breaking the engagement leaves her poisoned on the cold floor. In another, trying to become a follower of the female lead still ends in assassination, while escaping to a monastery leads to a deadly carriage crash. In today's dream, her second brother returns from a business trip to the Tihit kingdom, bringing home a newly hired servant. I mean, how unlucky can one girl get? That harmless-looking boy turns out to be the red-eyed killer who murdered her. She realizes in horror that every dream ends with her death. Clutching her aching head at the breakfast table, Edeline tries to brush off her brutal nightmare as random nonsense. But when her mother notices her pale face and casually brings up her second brother's long journey, Edeline's heart drops. Why would he leave home now? Her mother explains that he plans to start a business in the distant Tihit kingdom. Edeline's breath hitches. That is the exact foreign land where he hires the red-eyed boy who ends up stabbing her chest. Honestly, how terrifying must she feel right now? These aren't just bad dreams. They are prophetic warnings. Day after day, every single detail from her sleep unfolds in real life. When she dreams of her brother traveling or her mother falling ill, reality matches her visions with chilling precision. It feels like a sinister force is mocking her. Is her destiny truly written in stone? The universe demands her death to trigger the world's salvation, trapping her in a web of doom. But as the horror sets in, pure stubbornness sparks within her. You wish for my death, she sneers, that badly? If she cannot escape her fate, she will fight back. Rather than quietly surrendering to destiny, Edeline resolves to outsmart fate by faking her own death. She meticulously calculates every detail based on the novel, gathering loyal allies to execute the ultimate deception. If the world demands a villainess's sacrifice, she will orchestrate it on her own terms. She aligns her plan with the exact day Genevieve is attacked in the original story. Year after year, Edeline intentionally keeps her distance from Shane to protect him. I have to hand it to her. The girl knows how to plan an exit. Can you blame her for being so cautious? Time flies by in silence until the saintess finally makes her divine appearance. With every detail meticulously in place, adult Edeline gazes into the mirror, her green eyes full of resolve. She has only one chance to fool fate itself. On the night of the staged event, torrential rain lashes against the grand mansion as a blood-curdling scream shatters the darkness. Genevieve sits on the floor weeping hysterically, cradling Edeline's bloodied body in her arms. She sobbed that Edeline collapsed after shielding the saintess from a deadly strike. Shane bursts into the room, his icy composure instantly shattering as he drops to his knees. Bring a healer right now, he roars at his guards in total desperation. As her eyelids flutter shut, he grips her tightly and begs, "Look at me, okay?" She softly whispers his name, slipping into darkness. Edeline reaches up, smearing blood against Shane's cheek. "I'm sorry," she whispers softly, apologizing for deceiving him and everyone else. He freezes in absolute silence as her hand slips away. Clutching his shirt, she gives him her final, tearful request. "Forget about me, and live a happy life, okay?" Her hand drops limp. Shane's eyes widen in utter devastation as her breath fades away. Guilt crushes her soul, but faking her death was the only way to save them all. Years pass, but Shane remains trapped in the dark shadow of his grief. Standing alone among scattered papers, her past promise echoes in his mind. She once promised to make him happy. So why did you abandon me? 5 long years of quiet waiting finally pay off today. Sitting back with a serene smile, Edeline unrolls the morning newspaper to read the exact headline she spent half a decade waiting for. The front page proudly proclaims the wedding of the century. The saintess has successfully awakened her divine light, marrying the male lead just as the original story dictated. Her plan worked perfectly. Escaping her doomed death flag took extraordinary preparation and terrifying nerve. She carefully concocted a secret elixir to mimic true death, exploited subtle loopholes in noble funeral traditions, and climbed quietly out of her coffin under the veil of darkness. It was a harrowing gamble. One tiny misstep meant being buried alive forever. Pulling off such a dangerous fake death would have been completely impossible alone. She entrusted her life to Lloyd, the devoted young assistant who served as her right hand since childhood. She also forged a deal with Lucian, the formidable figure commanding the entire underworld. Together, they executed her hidden getaway without leaving a single trace. Yet one unsettling question lingers in her mind. Why have the Blanchards remained so remarkably silent since her reported demise? Did they really erase her memory from their hearts that quickly? Sounds a bit suspicious, right? If you ask me, she is celebrating her quiet freedom far too soon. Her eyes linger tenderly on the newspaper photograph of her former fiancé, Shane. He looks every bit as handsome and noble as he did 5 years ago. Seeing him standing proudly beside his radiant bride, looking like the ideal couple, fills Edeline with genuine closure. Staring down at his face, she whispers softly, "I'm so glad you're happy." Edeline quickly shakes off her sentimentality to focus on what lies ahead. If you ask me, she's planning her retirement budget a bit too early. With the main leads happily united, only the capture of the final villain remains, leaving her just enough time to save up funds for her long-term freedom. Her quiet moment is broken when her assistant comes rushing into the room. Lloyd virtually never loses his cool or runs, yet here he stands holding an urgent message with a heavy heart. Spotting his pale face, Edeline knows something serious has happened. An informant from the capital just sent devastating word. Her mother, Marchioness Bertrand, has suddenly passed away. The shocking news drops like a heavy weight, leaving Edeline frozen as the morning paper slips from her hands. Memories of her childhood flood back, filled with her mother's gentle warmth. She sacrificed her entire identity just to secure a peaceful life for her family, never imagining it would end in heartbreak. Tears fall freely as the reality sinks in. This wasn't what I hoped for when I left. Is she really willing to risk 5 years of quiet safety? Looking up at Lloyd, Edeline makes her decision without a moment's hesitation. She insists on traveling back to her hometown immediately, desperate to say one last goodbye to her beloved mother. Dressed in a black veil and dark mourning gown, Edeline travels quietly inside a carriage bound for home. Lloyd worries about arriving long before the formal funeral, but Edeline insists that staying hidden from public eyes is her only option. Can she pay her respects undetected, or is she stepping straight into a trap? Lloyd offers to wait discreetly nearby, allowing her a private moment to mourn. Edeline offers him a quiet word of thanks before stepping onto the silent cemetery grounds. Wrapped in her heavy black veil, she breathes out a small sigh of relief. She managed to arrive early, long before any morning guests could gather. Now she can pay her respects to her mother and slip away into hiding once again. She couldn't be more wrong. Lurking in the shadows of the nearby trees, a hidden figure tracks her every single step. Before she can take another stride, a powerful hand violently grabs her wrist. Her heart leaps into her throat as her veil flutters back. Who could have known she was coming? Before she can scream, she is yanked forcefully against a broad, familiar chest. Edeline looks up, only to lock eyes with the man she believed was happily married to another woman. Shane stands over her with an unsettling, dark intensity in his gaze. A slender smile touches his lips as he whispers softly, "It's been a long time, Edeline." A strange, sweet perfume suddenly fills the air around them. Her head swims as a heavy daze washes over her senses. Shane holds her close, chuckling softly at her confusion. "If I knew you'd be fooled by a mere fake obituary, I would have sent one sooner. It was a trap." Her mother never died. Her legs give out and total darkness takes over. Shane scoops her helpless body firmly into his arms, resting his cheek against her hair. Gazing down at her unconscious face, he whispers a quiet promise. "Sleep well, my beautiful fiancé." He never let her go. Her 5 years of freedom end right here in his embrace. As her consciousness slips away in his arms, Edeline's mind wanders back into a distant memory. She remembers standing in the quiet sunlit garden as a young girl, wondering why every living thing eventually dies. Was she already dreading her doomed fate back then? The boy in her memories was always tender and kind. Holding her hand tightly among the white blossoms, young Shane could not bear the thought of being separated. "Can't we be together forever?" he asked with innocent eyes. Gazing down at her with quiet warmth, he offered a vow she never forgot. He whispered softly, "I will never die and I'll stay by your side." It was a promise born of innocence, but that gentle boy is long gone. Edeline slowly blinks, her eyes open in an unfamiliar room. Soft morning light filters through tall windows, illuminating an opulent bed. Her head aches horribly. The sweet scent that knocked her out has finally faded, leaving her confused. Sitting up under the heavy silk covers, she rubs her forehead and desperately tries to reconstruct what happened. She remembers arriving at the cemetery and locking eyes with Shane. Everything after that is a blank blur. Where did he bring her? A chilling realization suddenly strikes her. Her mother never died. Shane mentioned a fake obituary right before she fainted. To be completely frank, he set a masterclass trap and she walked straight into it without suspecting a thing. Before she can recover from the shock, a sharp sound breaks the quiet room. The heavy bedroom door slowly creaks open. Edeline gasps as a tall shadow falls across the floorboards. Is Shane standing on the other side? Instead of Shane, it's Genevieve who steps through the doorway gasping out. Oh my God! Lady Edeline, the original heroine and saintess, stands before her in utter shock. Edeline can only stare back in absolute disbelief. Genevieve? What on earth is the saintess doing in this room? Wasn't she supposed to be happily married to Shane by now? Genevieve gasps, her voice breaking as she whispers Edeline's name in trembling shock. Seeing her standing alive right before her eyes feels like an impossible dream, leaving Genevieve overwhelmed with tearful emotion. Meanwhile, Edeline sits completely still, her mind spinning as she stares back at the saintess. What is she doing here? Genevieve was always a warm soul who endured harsh trials without ever losing her kindness. Without a second thought, she flings her arms around Edeline, sobbing heavily against her shoulder. She still vividly remembers watching Edeline breathe her last in that tragic moment. Seeing her safe right now is almost too much to bear. I honestly just want to give them both a hug. Genevieve wipes away her tears, gently scolding her for staying in hiding all these years without sending a single letter. Edeline offers a sincere, quiet apology for deceiving her all this time. But when asked how she arrived at this place, Genevieve reveals His Grace brought her here. That single answer confirms Edeline's deepest fears, leaving her wondering how Shane could have possibly tracked her down. Edeline knows she cannot stay here any longer. She urgently needs to slip away before anyone else discovers her secret existence. Leaning closer on the bed, she presses Genevieve for information and begs for her help escaping. She urges her to convince Shane, believing he would surely yield to his own bride. He'll surely listen if it's his wife's request. Sounds simple, right? Genevieve tilts her head in total confusion, uttering two completely unexpected words. My husband? The unexpected question hangs heavily in the quiet room, while both women stare at each other in total silence. A massive misunderstanding is about to unravel everything Edeline thought she knew. Noticing Genevieve's strange hesitation, Edeline desperately clings to the memory of the wedding announcement she read in the newspaper years ago. She presses her closely, pleading for immediate confirmation. Genevieve, you're married, right? Edeline is desperate to hear that Shane belongs to another woman, clinging to her fragile dream of freedom. Genevieve confirms she is married, but then quietly drops a shattering truth. But my partner isn't His Grace. Edeline freezes, unable to process what she just heard. Genevieve gently explains that the newspaper notice was cleverly framed to mislead readers without ever stating Shane was the groom. Everything Edeline relied on shatters in an instant. Her whole world flipped upside down. A cold horror paralyzes Edeline as Shane's chilling words echo in her memory. If I'd known you'd fall for something as trivial as a fake obituary, I should've put it out sooner. The fake obituary for her mother, the misleading wedding article. Neither was genuine. It was all an elaborate web constructed by Shane to drag her out of hiding. Talk about an unhinged mastermind. Genevieve softly clarifies that her husband is actually a common knight in the Crown Prince's guard, not Duke Blanchard. Edeline's breath hitches in her chest. Her mind spirals as she struggles to process the staggering scale of Shane's deception. Why on earth would he fabricate all of this? Genevieve looks at her with earnest affection, confessing she willingly helped Shane once he discovered Edeline was still alive. He convinced her that this staged trap was the only way to bring Edeline home. Genevieve acted out of pure love, totally unaware of the dark obsession driving Shane's grand design. Genevieve admits she worried endlessly about setting such a deceptive trap, but seeing Edeline sitting alive right here makes the incredible reality sink in. Looking closely at her lost friend, Genevieve leans forward with an earnest gaze and presses for the truth. Why did you disappear 5 years ago? Her quiet question hangs heavily between them. Edeline chokes back her words in guilty silence. How could she possibly explain that this world is actually a novel where her sacrifice was required for Genevieve to awaken? It sounds completely insane. Seeing her painful hesitation, Genevieve offers a compassionate smile, accepting that Edeline cannot speak about it so easily. Edeline lowers her head, murmuring a quiet apology. Even knowing the severe risks, Genevieve refuses to leave her dear friend trapped. If I help you right now, His Grace won't leave me or my husband alone. Yet she promises to secretly appeal to the Crown Prince to secure Edeline's escape from this room. Talk about a true friend! Edeline gazes back, touched by her unwavering loyalty. Edeline clutches her dress tightly as the terrifying realization takes root inside her. If even the saintess fears Shane's relentless reach, he has truly lost his sanity. Can anyone stop him now? Looking up with heavy eyes, Edeline softly offers her heartfelt gratitude, causing Genevieve to startle slightly at the sudden warmth. Before turning away, Genevieve gently asks if Edeline might someday share the true reason behind her 5-year disappearance. Edeline looks away in heavy silence. With the original plot completely shattered, her future is now an unwritten path. She desperately wants to confess everything and feel relieved, but her dreams warned that revealing the truth would put everyone she loves in grave danger. Genevieve offers a gentle, reassuring smile, promising to wait until all this chaos passes before asking for the full story. Yet she softly reminds Edeline that she isn't the one who truly craves those missing answers. There is someone else whose heart has been aching for the truth all along. Meanwhile, inside the quiet walls of the ducal residence, Shane sits alone in his office, haunted by the frail sight of Edeline after 5 agonizing years. Seeing her looking far thinner than the vibrant noblewoman in his memories cuts him to the core. If she chose to abandon his side, why couldn't she at least live well? Why did she have to endure such hardship alone? Such sentimental regret feels completely useless now. That lingering sorrow rapidly hardens into dark, unyielding possessiveness. Embracing the shadows of his obsession, Shane quietly declares, "You'll never be able to leave me again now." She will never escape his grip. If she needs something to resent, she can curse the relentless fate that forced their lives together. Their complicated history traces all the way back to the year Shane turned 10. Meeting him for the very first time in a flower-filled garden, young Edeline looked up with innocent curiosity, asking, "Are you my fiancé?" An innocent greeting that started it all. As the young heiress of the prestigious Bertrand family, her household held vast fertile lands and thriving commercial enterprises. I can't even blame high society for chasing that level of influence. That immense wealth compelled the imperial family to secure a direct marriage tie, binding their destinies together through political ambition long before true affection ever blossomed. When her family repeatedly refused imperial marriage proposals, Shane was chosen as an alternative match. Back then, neither child cared who stood on the other side of the arrangement. He merely offered a polite smile. "I look forward to working with you. Just a cold political transaction, right?" Or so he thought, until spending time with Edeline changed his world forever. As children, Edeline always stood out to young Shane with her odd, unpredictable habits. She would solve complex lessons perfectly before playing dumb moments later, or stare right at his face while feigning disinterest. Still, she barely registered in his guarded world. Was anyone truly worth his attention back then? Surrounded by hypocritical noble society, Shane felt completely detached from every person around him. Standing in a crowded room offered zero relief from his crushing solitude, making every fake conversation feel utterly meaningless. I honestly can't blame him for feeling so isolated. He walked through life completely unbothered and distant. Even within his own grand estate, bitter arguments echoed endlessly behind closed doors. His mother openly rejected him, deeply repulsed by his cold blue eyes and unnaturally calm demeanor. "He doesn't act like a child," she screamed. Yet Shane listened to her painful rejection without flinching. His heart remained entirely untouched. When his mother eventually passed away, Shane stood beside her lily-covered coffin in complete, chilling silence. He felt no grief, no remorse, and not a single tear fell from his eyes. The adults in his life had always feared his unnatural stillness. Now, he proved them right. He truly felt nothing at all. That icy emotional void shattered at the funeral when young Edeline approached him with tears streaming down her face. Reaching out to comfort him, she softly whispered, "So let's stay together, okay?" She promised he would never face life alone again. In that unexpected embrace, Shane's frozen world suddenly cracked wide open. Her warm embrace was so intense that Shane almost wished he were truly grieving. His entire world shifted. Having Edline as his fiancé no longer felt like a cold, noble arrangement, but an incredible stroke of luck. Life was no longer dull and meaningless. Walking side by side through the falling snow, even ordinary winter days turned magical simply because Edeline was there. "It's really pretty, isn't it?" she smiled, bringing light to his shadowy world. Interlocking his fingers with hers, Shane made a silent promise. "I won't give you up to anyone, honestly, who could blame him for holding on." She was the only person who had ever given color to his life. Yet fate took a bewildering turn when Edeline suddenly asked to annul their betrothal. Desperate and confused, Shane pleaded, "Tell me if I did something wrong." Why would she push him away so abruptly? Fortunately, the imperial family refused to break their arrangement, but Edeline continuously kept her distance. Years later, Edeline offered him unexpected romantic counsel. "Shane, you have to be honest with your feelings." She urged him to win over his future love, speaking as though another woman were destined for him. It infuriated him how she constantly acted as if she knew his entire destiny. Shane hid his decaying heart behind an unbothered facade, quietly enduring every empty day while waiting for Edeline to finally look back at him. He concealed his immense suffering, foolishly believing that time would bring them together. Yet all his patient waiting brought him was the shattering news of her sudden demise. Dying in his arms, Edeline brokenly apologized for abandoning him, despite promising to stay by his side forever. Clutching his suit with bloodied hands, she softly whispered, "Forget me and live happily, okay?" Tears streamed down Shane's face as her body grew cold. How could she expect him to move on after giving him a reason to live? She was the one and only person who brought vibrant warmth to his shadowy world, the only woman who made him feel truly human. Holding her lifeless body in the darkness, his entire reality shattered into irreparable pieces. His soul completely died that day. Years later, while existing as a hollow shell, an urgent message from the Crown Prince arrived at his desk. The letter warned, "I know you're not in your right mind these days, but this is urgent news." Imperial investigations revealed that Edeline's personal servant had spent 6 years secretly meeting a shady informant named Lucian Cole. Why would her servant interact with a criminal known for fabricating fake identities? Shane's blue eye widened as a startling possibility clicked into place. What if her tragic accident was nothing more than an elaborate act to escape him? "I swear." This man's mind immediately went into total overdrive. Crushing the letter in his fist, a dark wave of obsession rekindled inside his chest. She was still alive. Learning her death was a complete lie filled Shane with immense despair and betrayal. Yet a dark thrill surged through his chest at the same time. He fell into ecstasy, imagining the moment he would finally find her. Why she tried so hard to leave him no longer mattered. He would lock her safely by his side first. Closing the lid shut, he quietly sealed her inside his dark obsession. No distance or clever excuse could ever pull her away from his reach again. Whispering her name into the silence, his dark trap slammed shut. A few days pass while Edeline remains confined in a high room overlooking a dense forest with zero chance of escape. What on earth is her ex-fiancé planning? Unable to meet Shane since that day, she lies waiting with unanswered questions until the door suddenly creaks open. A tearful voice breaks the quiet, turning Edeline around in disbelief. Standing at the doorway is her mother, Marchioness Emma Bertrand, weeping openly. I swear, seeing her alive brings such overwhelming relief to her heart. "Edeline, my daughter." Emma cries out, rushing to pull her into a tight embrace. Holding her mother tight, Edeline feels immense relief, confirming that the obituary was truly nothing more than Shane's elaborate trick. Yet dark suspicion quickly creeps back into her mind. What on earth was Shane thinking, bringing her mother directly into this place? Before she can make sense of it all, heavy footsteps approach from behind. A composed nobleman steps into the room, softly instructing, "Calm down, Emma. Who is this man, and what part does he play in Shane's dark scheme?" Edeline can hardly believe her eyes. Standing right beside her mother are her elder brothers, Patrick and Jeff, along with her father, Marquis Gregory Bertrand. I swear, Seeing her entire family makes this nightmare feel far too real. Patrick steps forward to pull their weeping mother back, remaining suspicious of Shane's motives. I still cannot fully trust Duke Blanchard's words, he warns. Jeff even scoffs that Shane simply found a clever body double. They truly believe Edeline died years ago. Marquise Gregory addresses the Duke as heavy footsteps approach the doorway. Shane strides in calmly, but he is not alone. Walking right behind him is a young blonde woman whose arrival leaves Edeline utterly breathless. Could that really be Genevieve? Patrick angrily confronts Shane in disbelief, demanding to know how this stranger could be his sister when he personally laid Edeline in her coffin 6 years ago. Shane maintains his composure, revealing Edeline was placed in suspended animation through the saintess's magic. But is her brother really going to buy such an outlandish excuse? Genevieve steps up right on cue, playing her pious role flawlessly as she claims 5 years of continuous prayer restored her savior. Honestly, I have to admire their totally shameless teamwork here. Asked why he kept silent, Shane takes blame for the security breach, admitting he hid the truth until revival was certain. Hearing this reasonable explanation, Patrick nods, finally understanding why the engagement was never formally dissolved. Fixing his eyes on Edeline, Shane softly declares, I have never considered anyone other than Edeline. Before she can even recover, he delivers the ultimate blow. I intend to proceed with the wedding as soon as possible. Edeline stands completely frozen. Her quiet retirement is instantly shattered. Panic sets in as she turns to her family, but they are all far too shocked to utter a word. Patrick tries to object, but Marquise Gregory sternly silences his son before he can finish. Turning to Edeline with tears swelling in his eyes, her father offers a heartfelt apology for doubting her, softly whispering, I am truly glad you have returned. Seeing his genuine tears completely breaks Edeline's cautious resolve. Reminded of the warm, joyful days of her childhood with her parents, she realizes she could never turn her back on them. She missed her family far too much. Leaving the heavy, suffocating atmosphere of the room behind, her parents usher her through the grand halls of the Bertrand estate. Her mother smiles warmly, reassuringly promising that our daughter has nothing to worry about. Her brothers step forward to urge her to rest, strictly warning her never to attempt something so dangerous again. Exhausted from the tense ordeal, Edeline quietly retreats into her private bedchamber and shuts the heavy doors behind her. Sinking onto the couch in absolute silence, her heavy sigh turns into a sudden wave of suspicion. Why were her parents and brothers acting so strangely calm? I can't shake the feeling that something is deeply wrong here. Is this really the warm reunion she expected? Edeline wrestles with growing suspicion, remembering how cold and detached her family was always supposed to be. Why have they suddenly become so affectionate? Her quiet spiraling cuts short when a familiar voice interrupts, as Lloyd unexpectedly appears inside her bedchamber, explaining how he tracked her to the mansion after monitoring the estate. Lloyd gently asks how her situation escalated so fast. Edeline buries her face in her hands, completely overwhelmed. All her years of quiet sacrifice have crumbled into nothing. Honestly, I would feel utterly defeated too. What is she supposed to do now? Refusing to let her drown in hopelessness, Lloyd steps up with firm advice. Do you intend to give up like this? He softly urges her to rest and conserve your strength. He is right. She cannot surrender. Even if she must wound her family or make her former fiancé despise her, Edeline resolves to survive this ruthless world. With that heavy promise in mind, she finally falls asleep. By morning, sensational headlines flood the entire empire. The public eagerly reads reports claiming the saintess performed a holy miracle to revive the lost daughter of the Bertrand house. Public reports flood the empire, showcasing Saintess Genevieve's dramatic interview about repaying her savior. Reading the papers in her room, Edeline recoils in utter disbelief. How is she supposed to escape now? The press even brands their reunion as the love of the century. She fumes over Shane's shameless trap, realizing how thoroughly he boxed her in. Her quiet anger only grows as a familiar voice interrupts her. Sitting comfortably across from her, Shane teases her harsh words. When she tells him to get out of her house, he smirks and insists he cannot leave before finishing her mother's tea. Can someone please put this arrogant duke in his place? With Shane visiting daily, her home is now a prison. Her misery deepens when another dangerous figure arrives. Edwin, Crown Prince of the Greenwind Empire, greets her with a sharp smile. Edeline suddenly remembers a terrifying detail about her original fate. In the novel, the villainess was killed by one of the heroine's suitors. Aside from Shane, 3 male leads are prime suspects: a monster commanding mage, a crime boss, and the scheming prince standing right in front of her. Probing the Crown Prince, Edeline demands to know why he joined this elaborate scheme. Is he hiding something too? Beneath his polished charm, Edwin teases whether she committed some crime, smoothly reminding her that Duke Blanchard can resolve whatever trouble she faces. Despite his gentle smile, Edwin's true temperament is utterly ruthless. Fixing his eyes on her, he softly commands, "Come now, answer me, Edeline." She tries to brush off her obvious anxiety, but he leans in, pressing her for the real reason. Inner panic consumes her. If she cannot escape this dangerous web, she will die. Yet sharing the secret of her fate would only drag anyone who listens into a horrific death. Edeline swallows her desperation, keeping her lips sealed under Edwin's watchful gaze. Noticing her silence, Edwin gracefully drops the subject and turns to Shane. Duke Blanchard doesn't hesitate for a single second, coolly announcing, "We intend to hold the wedding at the earliest possible date." Edwin arches an eyebrow, asking what of Edeline's own will in all of this. Watching Edeline tremble in quiet fury, I almost feel bad for her. The prince immediately realizes she never agreed to any of this. Edwin accepts Shane's unyielding wedding plans with a quiet smirk. Taking his leave, the prince bows deeply and kisses Edeline's hand with a soft greeting. "Welcome back, Edeline." She pulls back coldly, sensing no genuine warmth behind his polished smile. Before departing, Edwin confesses how unstable Shane became during her absence, claiming the Duke was ready to burn the Empire for her. He slyly admits he also wants her talent for deception. Can anyone here be trusted? Preparations for the upcoming church charity banquet move at breakneck speed to showcase the revived noble daughter. Adeline's second says Jeff brings the renowned tailor Rachel to measure her for a brand new wardrobe. The sudden haste leaves Edeline breathless. Edeline is astonished to discover Jeff is actually the master investor behind the Empire's top fashion house. He was not just idly traveling after all. I love seeing hidden talent. She naively hopes the fitting ends her hectic day. Her mother immediately crushes that naive hope. Marchioness Emma insists her 6-year-old wardrobe is hopelessly outdated, declaring they must buy an entire court collection. "Mother, please." Edeline groans as her quiet life slips further away. Jeff gently reassures their weeping mother that they have plenty of time to prepare everything without rushing. As Marchioness Emma cries tears of relief, Edeline clutches her head in mounting exasperation. "I'd be losing my mind too." Turning with a sharp glance, Jeff softly asks, "Is that not so, Edeline?" Catching the subtle doubt in his eyes, she realizes her brother doesn't fully trust her. Could his lingering suspicion be her secret ticket to escape? A pair of delicate heels steps into the lavish banquet hall, instantly sending a quiet wave of shock through the crowd. Noble ladies turn in utter disbelief, whispering behind their fans as rumors spread across the floor. Is it really her? Walking arm in arm with her brother, Edeline becomes the immediate center of attention. Disbelieving voices ripple through the room as someone gasps, "That's Edeline Bertrand." She keeps her composure, secretly relieved that Shane isn't beside her. Honestly, I don't blame her. Her brother Jeff leans in with a playful smirk, teasingly asking if she prefers his company over her fiancé. She flusters instantly, insisting that isn't the case. Yet deep down, walking beside her brother feels far safer than standing anywhere near Shane. Still, this intense public spotlight creates a terrifying hurdle for her future. With her family's trust shattered and every noble watching her steps, planning another escape seems nearly impossible. Any mistake could expose her secrets. How will she ever break free? Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out. Genevieve rushes forward with beaming warmth, gratefully holding Edeline's hands. She credits Edeline with rescuing her from the mansion, playfully wondering if she should call her a saintess or savior now. When Genevieve apologizes for not visiting sooner, Edeline gently reassures her that she owes no apology. Her eyes narrow slightly as a lingering memory surfaces. The person who actually owes her an apology is someone else entirely. Right on cue, a handsome nobleman steps forward with a graceful smile. Crown Prince Edwin looks at her with amused eyes, asking, "Are you talking about me?" Jeff politely excuses himself to fetch drinks, leaving Edeline face to face with Crown Prince Edwin. Smiling smoothly, Edwin teasingly remarks that the new bride looks exhausted rather than happy. Edeline doesn't hide her irritation, immediately confronting him for letting poor Genevieve work herself to total exhaustion while she was gone. Investigation reports revealed Genevieve had been driven to her absolute limit, single-handedly battling monsters, purifying dark corruption from their corpses, and attending endless imperial ceremonies. Even as Genevieve softly reassures her that her self-healing powers are enough, Edeline sees how heavily those cruel duties have weighed on her friend. Edwin throws the truth right back with an amused smirk. "If you hadn't faked your death," he notes, "Shane wouldn't be dumping so much work on her as retaliation. Talk about a painful reality check." Edeline stammers in disbelief, realizing her selfless sacrifice completely derailed the story. 5 years ago, the final villain, the mysterious sorcerer, vanished entirely instead of meeting his downfall as written in the novel. Did her surviving twist the fate of this world? If that dangerous enemy is still lurking, is anyone truly safe? As long as that sorcerer lives, a peaceful future remains impossible. Edeline knows the villain is an imperial noble, but investigating high society requires top-level access. Honestly, walking straight into Shane's trap sounds completely insane. Yet proceeding with the wedding might be her only way to uncover his identity. Crown Prince Edwin smoothly ushers Genevieve away to greet the Marchioness, leaving Edeline standing completely alone under the evening sky. With her watchful brother and loyal friend out of sight, she finally finds a brief moment to breathe. Is this her golden opportunity? She knows she must move fast to investigate, while no one is watching her steps. Before she can even begin searching the hall for clues about the missing sorcerer, an intoxicated nobleman stumbles forward and aggressively blocks her path. Flushed with alcohol, he loudly demands to know if she is really Edeline Bertrand or just a fraud with a matching face. "I swear, someone always has to ruin the mood!" Scandalized whispers immediately ripple through the crowd. Edeline coolly points out that church gatherings do not serve alcohol, but he stubbornly continues, shouting that she is impersonating a dead woman. Watching the surrounding nobles whisper behind their fans, she realizes dragging this out will only draw dangerous attention. She must handle this fool right now. She refuses to let him ruin her plans. When he drunkenly insists that coming back after 5 years makes zero sense, Edeline calmly nods in full agreement. True, you have a point." Her unexpected agreement leaves the man utterly bewildered. She steps closer, smoothly laying the groundwork for a brilliant logic trap that turns his argument completely upside down. She softly explains that if she were truly a fraud, then Duke Blanchard and Saintess Genevieve must be her criminal accomplices. And unfortunately, His Highness the Crown Prince is a victim who fell for these scammers' tricks. The nobleman pales with dread. He realizes his reckless accusation just insulted the highest authorities in the whole empire. Edeline watches the nobleman flounder in frustration, privately amused by how quickly his arrogant posture collapses over a simple question. He clearly picked a fight with the wrong woman tonight. She smoothly spells out the ridiculous conclusion of his drunken logic. If she were truly an impostor, then her grieving family, Saintess Genevieve and Duke Blanchard, must all be corrupt criminal masterminds scheming to deceive the entire empire. The surrounding nobles gasp as they realize the sheer weight of his foolish accusation. Clapping her hands together with a bright, sarcastic smile, Edeline sweetly asks, "Isn't that right?" Her trap springs shut. The nobleman grits his teeth in sheer humiliation, while whispering ladies turn their fans in disbelief. Personally, I love watching her outsmart these arrogant fools. Who knew logic could hurt this much? Realizing he has been completely outmaneuvered, the enraged man lunges forward with his hand raised high to strike. "You little fake!" he roars, resorting to crude violence since he cannot win with words. Edeline doesn't even flinch. Instead of panicking or fleeing, she calmly closes her eyes and decides to brace for the hit. Taking a punch right here gives her the perfect justification to report his treasonous assault directly to the Emperor later. Before the fist can touch her face, a brutal impact echoes across the open courtyard. The drunk nobleman cries out as he is slammed violently onto the hard stone floor. Talk about dramatic timing! Edeline opens her eyes in complete astonishment, finding a towering figure standing directly in front of her to shield her from danger. Looking up at the noble blue coat, her heart skips a beat as she recognizes the man who just intervened. Shane has arrived. Shane pulls her tightly against his chest, leaving Edeline caught completely off guard. He explicitly claimed he was far too busy to attend tonight's gathering, so why is he standing here now? As his fingers softly cradle her cheek, his dark gaze locks onto hers with suffocating intensity. Her heart races under his shadow. With his arm firmly wrapped around her waist, escaping his scrutiny feels impossible. Leaning down until their breath mingles, he quietly demands, "Explain to me what's going on, Edeline." Shane gently cradles Edeline's face, whispering that there is no reason for her to put up with a creep like that. But as his gaze turns toward her attacker, his expression darkens with terrifying hostility. How dare he lay a hand on you? She has never seen him this angry before. Before hearing any explanation from her, Shane coldly murmurs that he has something to take care of first. He steps forward and violently kicks the nobleman straight down onto the hard stone path. As the man shrieks in terror, Edeline scrambles forward, desperately shouting for Shane to stop. The nobleman grovels on the dark garden floor, weeping frantically and begging Shane to spare his life. Yet Shane shows zero intention of pulling back his brutal assault. Panic grips Edeline tightly while she clutches her chest in distress. Is he completely lost to his fury? Shane coldly demands why he should stop when this man dared to strike his fiancée. His expression stays completely deadpan as another sickening crunch shatters the quiet garden air. Honestly, I can't even blame him for snapping after seeing her in danger. Desperate to prevent any further disaster, Edeline lunges forward and buries her face into Shane's back, locking her arms tightly around his waist. Her gloved hands tremble against his dark coat as she softly begs, "That's enough now." Pridgeon. Held fast in her desperate embrace, his violence finally comes to a halt. Clinging tightly to his coat, Edeline trembles as memories of death and trauma resurface in her mind. She cannot bear to witness another life destroyed right before her eyes. With her voice cracking, she tearfully begs, "So please, let him go, Shane." Her desperate plea finally breaks through his violent rage. Shane slowly turns around, a gentle smirk replacing his dark expression. He quietly asks if she truly feared he would kill the noble. Edeline hesitates, clutching his sleeve as she admits that an outright murder would bring severe trouble for him as well. His demeanor softens completely. Shane lifts her gloved hand and tenderly presses a kiss to her fingers. "I would never do something like that in front of you," he murmurs softly. Edeline stares at him in sheer disbelief. Was he not just raging a second ago? Seeking to distract her, Shane warmly asks her to join him for a dance. When Edeline admits her body has gone completely rigid from shock, he offers, "Then just stand on my feet." He gently sweeps her into his arms. Honestly, watching him switch from terrifying tyrant to devoted lover gives me total chills. As the two glide together under the night sky, nearby onlookers begin whispering. Observing how devotedly Shane holds her, the noble guests quickly dismiss their previous doubts, convinced he remains hopelessly devoted to his fiancée. But is his affection truly as sweet as it appears? Watching from the quiet sidelines, the Crown Prince notes how conveniently that chaotic scene resolved everything. Shane's violent outburst instantly wiped away all public suspicion surrounding Edeline. "Your Highness," Jeff murmurs beside him, observing the garden as the high society rumors dissolve into thin air without a trace. Shane's terrifying anger wasn't just blind fury. It was a thoroughly calculated maneuver. He delivered an explicit, brutal warning to the entire empire never to doubt his fiancée again. Talk about an intense way to protect someone. The prince calmly sips his drink, fully aware of how ruthlessly sharp Shane remains. By publicly placing his leash in her hands, Shane guaranteed that no noble will ever dare treat her lightly again. But while the surrounding crowd swoons over this grand show of devotion, Jeff lingers quietly in the gloomy shadows. His dark glare is heavy with doubt. As soon as the banquet wraps up, Jeff pays an urgent late-night visit to Rachel, the boutique owner who designed Edeline's dress. Rachel possesses an extraordinary eye for detail, accurately remembering every client's unique physical traits. Today, I came to borrow your eyes, not your hands, Jeff explains upon entering. Since Rachel personally fitted the gown, Jeff knows she would spot even the subtle differences others missed. He skips the pleasantries and drops a chilling question right into the quiet room. In your opinion, is that woman really Edline? Does he already suspect the truth about her? Rachel confirms the truth with absolute certainty. She looks directly at Edeline's brother and delivers her definitive judgment after the fitting. The woman you brought is indeed your sister. Her confident statement immediately shatters any remaining doubt regarding the young woman's identity. Rachel explains that while strangers might share similar faces, duplicating an identical bone structure and frame is impossible. Even with magic, it's nearly impossible. Disguises can trick the public, but matching the authentic saturation and depth of a person's eyes remains out of reach. Her brother reflects on his initial skepticism. When she first reappeared, he suspected a fraudulent scheme cooked up by Blanchard to manipulate their family. There was simply no way the sister they buried 5 years ago could return alive. Yet this woman displayed the exact expressions and subtle habits he remembered. Her gaze betrayed her completely. Most decisively, those eyes held the crushing guilt of having deceived her family. Was she truly expecting her own blood to be fooled? I have to give him credit for reading her so clearly. The talk of a holy miracle was merely a convenient justification for high society. The family fully understands that Shane caught Edeline after she faked her death and fled. By orchestrating a tearful reunion, Shane trapped her under overwhelming guilt so she could never run again. Naturally, they play along with his clever act. Edeline remains visibly anxious, well aware that Shane's theatrical devotion is all a performance. Watching from the side, Rachel wonders why her brother stays so cold instead of celebrating his sister's return. Her brother quietly confesses his doubts. Nobody knows why she ran. Determined to uncover her hidden motives, he stays behind at the boutique as Rachel takes her leave. Even while pushing her family away, Edeline always kept one specific servant by her side. A dark smirk crosses her brother's face as the young man steps through the door. Welcome, you little rat. I guess everyone in this palace has a secret agenda. Does this quiet aide hold the key to her real escape plan? Edeline's brother steps forward with a smooth smile, catching the servant off guard with a direct proposal. Let's make a deal. But the loyal servant keeps his distance, coolly answering that a simple attendant has nothing to offer a nobleman. His quick refusal only draws an amused laugh. Years ago, Edeline brought this young boy into the estate before vanishing, leaving her brother to keep him close throughout those 5 long years. Now, the young master extends a polite hand, asking him to listen before making up his mind. What harm could listening do? Turning around, the noble reassures him with a soft tone, asking, "When did I ever tell you to betray your master?" He claims he only wants to learn what his younger sister truly desires. Then comes the real trap. He casually mentions knowing about the vast fortune spent buying secret information. That name brings a dark shadow over the room. Lucian Cole, the ruthless boss controlling the underground back alleys. He is a man who takes any contract for the right price, even staging the death of a nobleman's daughter. 5 years ago, that fake death allowed Edeline to escape the estate safely. But such dangerous help never comes cheap. The servant stands in grim silence, a chill running through him as the realization hits home. Edeline's brother already unraveled their most dangerous secret contact. How much more does he already know? The nobleman steps forward with an irresistible offer, refusing to let the servant walk away. "I'll pay you double what you've given Lucian," he promises smoothly. In exchange for a small fortune, he demands to know why Edeline suddenly abandoned them. All he wants is the truth. The servant glares back, weighed down by his master's heavy burden. He knows that unless the root of the problem is solved, Edeline will remain trapped for the rest of her life. Is money really enough to break his silence? Ever since Edeline saved his life when he collapsed as an injured boy, he pledged absolute devotion to her. She became his benefactor and only family. Beneath her composed smile, he saw a hidden desperation. For her sake, he would do anything. Loyalty means everything to him. I can hardly blame the young master for pushing so hard. The servant finally breaks his silence, admitting he doesn't know why Edeline ran away either. However, she left behind critical secrets to investigate. Intrigued, the brother leans in and asks, "What was it?" Edeline tasked him with uncovering the true identity of whoever is Targest Saintess Genevieve. But the mystery deepens even further. She was also actively gathering information about the mage who controls monsters. What dangerous threat is she truly preparing to face? Edeline's brother mutters in complete disbelief, questioning why she would ever need to investigate a sacred saintess and a mage who controls monsters. International political tensions aside, the saintess should be the safest person in the whole empire. What hidden threat is Edeline anticipating? He thoughtfully analyzes her alarming request, explaining that controlling monsters is fundamentally impossible because they are raw, chaotic impurities of natural mana. Controlling a living phenomenon defies all known logic. Anyone capable of such terrifying power would no longer be human. They would exist in the realm of a god. Realizing the dangerous gravity of what his sister is secretively uncovering, the young master resolves to personally investigate these dark leads himself. He needs answers fast. Until he gets to the bottom of this mystery, he orders the loyal servant to remain on standby. Just as the heavy mood breaks, the servant casually drops one last surprising detail. Edeline also commanded him to investigate the saintess's new husband, ready to force a divorce if he turns out to be sketchy. Her brother can only sigh in sheer disbelief. Does she genuinely consider the saintess her own child? I can't help but admire her fierce, protective instincts. But the servant's expression quickly turns grave as he brings up Shane Blanchard. Is Shane really an ally right now, or will his reckless interference drag Edeline into even greater danger? Edeline's brother smiles smoothly, reassuring the servant that their ultimate objectives perfectly match. They simply cannot afford to lose Edeline a second time. For now, Shane Blanchard remains the only man capable of keeping her close and protected. The Bertrand family is fiercely determined never to repeat their past mistakes. They cannot fail again. Meanwhile, late at night within the quiet church, Saintess Genevieve dreads returning to her empty room. Her husband lives at the imperial palace guarding the crown prince, where her sacred duties keep her isolated. It was never a marriage born of love. She confesses with quiet disappointment. I only married because I wanted a family, yet the void inside only deepens. Would having a child fill that aching void? With her relentless schedule, even pregnancy feels out of reach. The goddess bestowed gifts upon her servants, granting energy without food or sleep. But remembering the painful trigger that awakened those powers, it feels like a curse of forced labor. I honestly can't blame her for feeling so thoroughly exhausted. Yet, amidst the crushing weight of her divine life, her mind wanders back to the precious warmth she lost. Edeline will never truly know what she meant to her. Cherishing the memory of their gentle bond, Genevieve clings to one undeniable truth. In my life, the only one who ever truly stood on my side was you. Watching Edeline bleed out 5 years ago shattered Genevieve's heart completely. I felt like I would never be able to forgive myself, she remembers tearfully. Taking on the Duke's crushing workload for 5 long years wasn't just church duty. It was her personal penance for failing to save her precious benefactor. Back in the hallway, an attendant asks if she will embark on another winter expedition. Genevieve explains that the ailing pope asked her to remain by his side instead. Furthermore, she gladly agreed to officiate Duke Blanchard's upcoming wedding. Both the Duke and Edeline saved her life, so how could she ever say no? Persistent gossip spreads about a scandalous affair between her and the Duke. Where on earth do those persistent affair rumors keep coming from? She wonders in pure annoyance. Her heart only raced around him because his terrifying aura scared her half to death. Exhausted by the rumor mill, she despairs that only having a child will silence them. Sudden danger strikes without warning. A lethal spell projectile slices through the quiet corridor, missing her by mere inches. Who would dare target the Empire's sacred saintess inside her own holy sanctuary? Her attendant screams in complete horror. I can feel my own heart dropping as razor-sharp debris smashes violently into the stone wall behind her. An urgent shout echoes down the hall, warning her to duck. Edeline's dark warning proved tragically true. The saintess is under immediate attack. Danger strikes without warning as a panicked shout urges Saintess Genevieve to watch out. Before she can even react, a sudden attack shatters the quiet corridor. 2 weeks after that attack, bells ring across the magnificent Green Windsor Grand Church. Groom Shane Blanchard glides down the aisle side by side with his bride, Edeline Bertrand. How did things turn out like this? Edeline still can't believe this terrifying moment has actually arrived. Looking at Shane's composed face, she mentally screams in regret, wishing someone would crash the wedding and whisk her away. Honestly, I can't even blame her for wanting an escape. At the altar, Genevieve offers a gentle smile and officially pronounces them husband and wife under the goddess's blessing. Meanwhile, Edeline seethes beneath her veil. Genevieve was supposed to be the original bride, yet she stands there offering sincere congratulations. Shane pulls her closer and gently lifts her veil to gaze right into her eyes. Edeline, raise your head, he whispers with a slight smirk, telling her, you should smile. He remains completely untroubled by her sharp silence. Edeline glares right back at him without hiding her resentment. This is a forced marriage. How could I possibly smile? Behind them, her mother sheds emotional tears while the crowd celebrates the union. Shane remains unbothered. This marriage changes everything. Shane softly reminds her that everyone she loves remains safe, attributing their well-being entirely to his new wife. Edeline can only stare back at him in bitter disbelief, whispering, Shane, you're truly insane. Yet her sharp words don't break his calm composure for a single second. He holds her gaze steadily. Instead of flinching, he smoothly thanks her for the compliment, while the surrounding crowd claps in celebration. Leaning down near her ear, Shane quietly commands her to smile through the ceremony anyway. When his gloved hand tenderly cradles her chin, her breath catches in surprise. Is this really happening? Edeline desperately tries to convince herself that this forced wedding is merely his cold payback for her past deception. It has to be. Yet when Shane pulls her close and kisses her, his cheeks flush with genuine warmth and contentment. Does a man seeking vengeance really look this utterly devoted? Honestly, I'd be confused too. A few hours later, inside the ducal estate's drawing room, the formal atmosphere completely collapses. Saintess Genevieve gets utterly wasted after downing glass after glass of celebratory wine. Face bright red, she violently slams her glass right onto the table with a loud thud. Do you have any idea how sorry I was? She yells, aggressively venting all her long-held guilt. Genevieve stumbles helplessly across the low coffee table, blurting out tearful apologies through a heavy, wine-dazed haze. Edeline can hardly believe her eyes seeing the usually immaculate saintess completely undone like this. Is this really the story's dignified heroine? Lounging comfortably in his armchair, the Crown Prince dryly reminds Shane that this makeshift reception is his fair concession for helping arrange their wedding. Shane sits in stoic silence, admitting he is holding back his impatience only out of courtesy. Edeline simply longs to escape and rest. The quiet atmosphere shatters when the Crown Prince casually reveals an unknown assassin shot an arrow at Genevieve 2 weeks ago. Edeline leaps up in shock. With the culprit still at large, fear takes root. How could targeted violence strike the saintess when she was supposed to be safe? Kneeling gently at her friend's side, Edeline tenderly cradles Genevieve's hands in her own. I really have to admire the saintess for returning to her duties right after surviving such a terrifying encounter. Tears spill down Genevieve's flushed cheeks as she clings to Edeline's hands with fierce emotion. She isn't weeping over her own near-miss with death, but out of heartbreak that Edeline never values her own safety. Genevieve desperately wants to protect her too, leaving Edeline's heart heavy with unspoken grief. Genevieve slips a custom-blessed bracelet onto Edeline's wrist, offering her a protective magical lifeline. If you're ever in danger, you can call me by breaking this bracelet. Edeline stares in tender surprise, deeply touched by her friend's fierce devotion. But before she can even speak, the thoroughly intoxicated saintess collapses face first onto the coffee table with a sudden thud. Watching her friend, Edeline gazes down with a heavy heart. She never wanted to hide secrets, yet to dodge her original doomed fate, she felt forced to hurt and deceive the people she loved most, wishing only for a peaceful future. Was her desperate bid for freedom worth all this unbearable remorse? She had genuinely assumed her role ended the moment Genevieve awakened as the true saintess. but learning her friends survived an arrow attack leaves Adeline spiraling in dread. What if her own survival has disrupted fate, forcing Genevieve to face deadly threats she was never supposed to endure? Guilt consumes her. Much later, Adeline drowsily stirs awake alone on the drawing room sofa. Empty wine bottles lie scattered across the low table in the dim room. Heavy with exhaustion, she tries forcing herself up to head to the bedroom. Personally, I would just sleep right there. But before she can rise, a gentle voice softly whispers, "Keep sleeping." Shane effortlessly lifts a startled Adeline right into his arms. He carries her gently from the drawing room sofa. When she softly asks about His Highness and Genevieve, he smoothly reassures her that both guests have already been taken care of for the night. Carrying her into the quiet bedroom, he lays her onto the soft mattress. Adeline turns her eyes away, deeply unsettled by his gentle demeanor. Why is he acting so sweet after forcing her into this union? A cold confrontation would be easier. When she weakly tells him, "Go away," Shane only laughs softly in response. What would people think if the new groom got kicked out on the very first night? Pulling her tightly against his chest, he tenderly whispers, "I'll just hold you and sleep." I can't blame her for feeling bewildered. Adeline closes her eyes as overwhelming fatigue finally takes over. Her exhaustion runs deep. The endless emotional whirlwind of returning home, her mother's tears, and her family's constant worrying have completely drained her spirit. Remembering her family's tearful joy on her wedding day, her heart aches with conflict. Everyone believes she has finally found her happy ending. Yet held tight in Shane's warm embrace in the quiet dark, Adeline wonders if this marriage is truly her safe haven, or just another gilded cage. Lying awake in the heavy quiet, Adeline gazes tearfully at the man resting beside her. She desperately forces herself to believe that Shane trapped her here out of cold vengeance. How else could she possibly endure the weight of this gilded cage? "I really hate you," she softly whispers into the dim bedroom. Shane only pulls her tighter against his chest. "I know." When she murmurs her deep resentment once more, he gently replies, "I hate you too." As her breathing softens into sleep, his hidden obsession finally surfaces. "That's why I can't let you go, Adeline." The morning after the wedding, Adeline wakes up nursing a heavy hangover. Calling for her butler, she is surprised to find he has already organized the entire staff hierarchy in a single day. She gives him well-deserved credit, but he merely bows and murmurs, "It wasn't difficult." He explains that when the former Duke relocated to his territory, he took all the long-serving personnel with him. Hearing that Shane rarely comes home lights Adeline up instantly. Honestly, who wouldn't celebrate an absent husband? "I guess I'll be able to move around more freely," she chirps with absolute relief. Walking through the grand hallway, Adeline observes her surroundings. The house feels desolate. It used to be an iron fortress bristling with thorns, but now it seems clean and empty. Stopping before a massive portrait of Shane's parents, she remembers once vowing she would never become the Duchess here. Duke Blanchard served on the noble elders' council, while the Duchess was born of a royal princess. Both were nobles of true blue blood. Inheriting their stern legacy, young Shane displayed an excessively mature side from a very early age. He grew up far too quiet. Adeline recalls him living beside the former Duke as a young lord before she fled Delmas years ago. Yet, staring up at the grand portrait of his family, a lingering question takes root in her mind. Just when did Shane change into someone so frighteningly obsessive? Outside the dining hall, Lloyd reminds Adeline that Duke Blanchard is waiting for her inside. Reluctant to face her new husband, she tries sneaking off to see Lucian first. After all, those two men have spent years openly ignoring each other. But Lloyd smoothly cuts off her escape, nagging her like an overprotective guardian to eat all her vegetables. Stealing her courage, Adeline reaches for the heavy door handle. It is the morning after their wedding. Though she tries convincing herself today will be completely normal, an uneasy nervousness takes hold of her heart. Stepping inside, she finds Shane waiting alone with a wine glass in hand. Before she can digest the news that Genevieve already left, Shane personally pulls out her chair and serves her food. Honestly, I'd be flustered too. When she stammers, asking why the Duke is doing servant work himself, he simply smiles and urges her to sit down. Determined not to get swept away by his pace, Adeline brings up his usual hectic schedule. She insists he shouldn't trouble himself with her meals since he's always away. But Shane leans over the table with an unreadable gaze. I'll be at home for a while. Her escape plan collapses. Her mind races in total disbelief. As a prominent council elder expected to govern alongside the crown prince, shouldn't he be drowning in state affairs? Yet Shane casually cuts into his breakfast, asking, "Is it that surprising that someone who just got married would stay home?" Shane casually cuts into his breakfast steak, brushing off his high-ranking noble duties without a single care. When an exasperated Edeline reminds him that imperial protocol requires visiting his father's distant territory, he dismisses traditional expectations entirely. He insists on staying right by her side instead. Edeline stares down at her untouched plate as dark questions consume her. She suspects a rogue mage was responsible for the sudden attack on Genevieve, mirroring the dangerous plot of the original story. With events veering completely off course, she must protect her friend. Is safety even possible anymore? Interrupting her spiral, Shane leans across the dining table with sharp, calculating eyes. You're thinking about running away again, aren't you? Edeline stammers a panicked denial, but he effortlessly cuts through her excuses. He strictly forbids her from stepping foot outside without his personal escort. Resting his chin on folded hands, Shane offers a deceptively warm smile. I won't let you wander around alone, my love. He is terrifyingly obsessive, and trust me, I am loving every second of this control struggle. Just like that, her illusion of freedom shatters completely. Far across the capital, high society is already buzzing with colorful rumors about the couple's sudden seclusion. Aristocratic ladies whisper over afternoon tea, convinced the handsome duke and his bride are hopelessly swept up in passionate honeymoon bliss. Little do they suspect Edeline is living as a gilded prisoner. Over at the imperial cathedral, heavy rumors swirl among the gathering nobility about the mysterious duchess who practically returned from the dead. Church attendants whisper in hushed tones behind their hands, speculating whether Duke Blanchard himself will break his long habit and attend the sacred service today. Chilling rumors circulate about Shane brutally punishing anyone who dared disrespect his new bride in public. Slipping past the gossiping attendants in matching hooded cloaks, Shane casually reassures her. I didn't kill him, and I didn't lay a hand on him. Edeline dryly murmurs that she never even asked. Edeline clutches Genevieve's official letter tight, feeling immensely grateful for a legitimate reason to step outside the estate. Pulling her hood lower, she exhales with relief at the quiet weekday crowd. Will she finally get a tiny moment of freedom? Her dark shadow ensures she stays guarded. That won't happen, Edeline. Shane offers a calm smile, effortlessly answering her unspoken desire to wander alone. He reads her like an open book. If someone read my mind like that, I'd panic too. True to his strict word, Shane stays glued to her side without stepping away once. Back inside the grand estate, her afternoon feels deceptively peaceful as she sips tea among the silent maids. Yet her luxurious cage remains unbroken. Only one major detail truly changed after their wedding. Every single night, Edeline faces the intense reality of sharing an intimate bed with her obsessive husband. Edeline reflects on their intimate nightly routine in deep confusion. Though Shane holds her close against his chest every single night, he never forces the issue or demands marital duties. Instead, his physical affection increases so subtly that it always stops right before feeling uncomfortable. What could he possibly want from her? Back in the present, Shane tightly intertwines his fingers with hers as they stroll through the quiet imperial cathedral grounds. Edeline sighs, reminding him that she cannot escape even if he releases her hand. Yet he plainly replies, no. He softly insists he only wants to kindly escort his bride. Edeline scoffs at his overbearing grasp, questioning what kind of husband shows affection by trapping someone's hand like a prisoner. Entirely unbothered, Shane pulls her fingers up toward his lips with a faint smirk. I would fall for that handsome face in a second. He teasingly warns her to accept his special care. Stepping closer under his cloak hood, Shane gazes down at her with intense warmth. Because I'm only like this with you. Edeline blushes furiously as her heart thumps wildly in her chest. She fumes in quiet defeat, completely flustered that his striking charm can still effortlessly disarm all her carefully built defenses. Inside the Grand Cathedral, expectations run high for Saintess Genevieve's very first public service. Sitting close beside Shane, Edeline remains on edge. Anyone could easily slip into this dense crowd to harm the saintess. Revered as a living treasure, Genevieve travels constantly to perform purifications while the church takes full credit. On the surface, the elderly pope treats her like his own beloved granddaughter. Does he truly care for her, though? Behind that warm smile lies a man obsessed with wealth and authority. Gold donations flooded in the moment Genevieve arrived, so he assigned heavy guards to protect his prize. If you ask me, he only cares about keeping his ultimate cash cow safe. Edeline silently warns herself. I can't let my guard down. Dark sorcerers previously sent an assassin directly to the Imperial Party, forcing Edeline to fake her own death to settle the chaos. Threatening forces are still moving behind the scenes. Witches use simple herbs while mages channel holy light, but sorcerers wield dark puppet magic that turns ordinary people into deadly weapons. Who will strike next? Black magic relies heavily on lethal curses and sacrifices. Though shunned by society, corrupt nobles secretly crave its terrifying power. Watching Genevieve closely from the pews, Edeline knows any hypnotized bystander could suddenly turn into a deadly weapon. Sorcerers desperately want Genevieve dead because her holy light easily shatters their puppet spells. 5 years ago, even the assassin who attacked her was merely an innocent soul bound by black magic. Who can truly be trusted? After the service, Genevieve spots Edeline and rushes over with a radiant smile. She never expected her dear friend to visit. Is it really safe for an uninvited guest to walk through these private church corridors? When Genevieve warmly offers to share lunch, Shane coldly interrupts that Edeline is busy. Flustered, Edeline insists she is entirely free, eagerly pulling Genevieve along, while Shane strictly reminds them that men cannot enter the saintess's quarters. Shane dismisses any separation without hesitation. Don't talk nonsense. If he cannot join her, they are returning straight to the mansion. I mean, talk about possessive. As Genevieve notes how close they seem, Edeline furiously denies every word. Genevieve brightly reassures Shane that her heavy guard detail will keep Edeline perfectly safe too. Watching the knights closely, Edeline remains on high alert. If you ask me, trusting church security is always a recipe for disaster. Danger always strikes when people drop their vigilance. Suddenly, suspicious footsteps echo from behind. Edeline spins around just as a mind-controlled knight lunges toward the saintess. Without a second thought, Edeline shoves Genevieve to safety. Taking the full force of the surprise attack, Edeline is violently grabbed by the neck. The spellbound assailant squeezes with ruthless strength, completely cutting off her air. She struggles helplessly in his grip, gasping, I can't breathe." Shouts of panic erupt across the corridor as the nearby guards yell, "Let go of her this instant!" Genevieve watches in absolute horror, tears welling in her eyes as her friend suffocates. Can anyone break the dark spell before it's too late? A decisive blade cuts down the assassin, sending his bloody weapon clattering to the floor. Collapsing to her knees, Edeline clutches her throat while gasping desperately for air. That was way too close. What will the sorcerers target next? Shane stands tall over the disarmed assailant, with sword drawn while Imperial guards pin the knight to the stone floor. Across the corridor, Genevieve screams in distress, struggling against her escort to reach her fallen friend. Slumping onto the cold floor, Edeline gently touches her sore, bruised neck. She exhales with deep relief after verifying Genevieve escaped untouched. Does she ever think of herself first? Shane strides forward, his dark gaze locked onto her as his voice tightens with intense anger. Does the thought of avoiding danger never cross your mind? She weakly asks for help up, admitting her body feels like lead. He scolds her for recklessly stepping in front of an assassin when she was completely helpless to defend herself while being choked. Honestly, I can't blame him for snapping. He was genuinely terrified of losing her. Before she can explain, Shane suddenly sweeps her into a fierce, emotional embrace. Burying his face against her shoulder, he chokes out, "If I had failed to protect you again." Edeline freezes in shock, feeling his hands cling desperately to her. Shane buries his face against her shoulder, his voice cracking with raw guilt as he whispers, "I'm sorry." He clings desperately to her, as if letting go would mean losing her all over again. Feeling his entire body tremble, Edline gently cradles his head, deeply moved by his vulnerability. Blood still smudges her cheek. Why does he speak as though he were the one who just brushed with death? Because an insider launched the attack, Genevieve is immediately relocated to the imperial palace for her protection. Though the saintess tearfully protests leaving her guard detail, she eventually drops her head in silent grief, staring numbly at the stone floor. Deep within the imperial dungeons, investigators grill the bound assassin. The terrified knight insists he only harbored petty resentment, claiming an evil force completely took control of his body the moment he spotted the saintess. When asked if he knows who he choked, the prisoner turns and meets Shane's icy, murderous glare. He shrieks in pure panic. Honestly, Shane looks ready to snap him in half right then and there. Ordering the terrified knight locked away, Shane leaves the dark dungeon behind. While initial interrogations suggest the attacker acted alone, the terrifying truth behind his sudden impulse remains completely unsolved. Walking through the courtyard alongside the Imperial commander, Shane quietly raises the threat of dark magic. If a sorcerer was truly manipulating the knight, why did the puppet spell suddenly break after he struck? Could Genevieve's presence have accidentally purified him? When the commander assumes Shane is defending the saintess, Shane bluntly exposes her actual limitations. Genevieve's holy light only heals surface wounds, and breaking a curse takes her days. Compared to previous saintesses, her power is surprisingly frail. I'm talking about Edline. Shane clarifies with a heavy gaze. He knows Edline's fierce loyalty means she will throw herself into harm's way again the second she sees Genevieve in trouble. Will she ever prioritize her own life? If Edline realizes how vulnerable the saintess truly is, no warning on earth will hold her back. Noticing Shane's intense protectiveness, the commander smirks, knowing that it's surprising you haven't locked Edline in the mansion yet. Don't give him any ideas. The commander reminds Shane about the upcoming festival before his tone turns thoughtful. He confesses he once believed Shane only wanted to torment Edline by trapping her in marriage. Yet witnessing his intense fury when she was threatened proves otherwise. I guess his fierce obsession is actually rooted in love. Shane silently rejects the idea. He knows her heart hasn't forgiven him. Back at the estate, Edline rests soundly in bed, entirely unaware of the heavy grief consuming him. He softly admits, "The very fact that I am her husband must be horrific enough. Can they ever heal?" Deep inside the quiet bedroom, Edline tosses restlessly under heavy blankets. Shane gently rests his palm against her brow, whispering, "Her fever has gone up again. Her temperature refuses to drop." He knows her fever has lingered without mercy ever since that terrifying collapse days ago. Shane turns toward the door to send for her physician, but her faint coughing stops him mid-step. He freezes. He cannot walk away. Why does caring for her still hurt this much? Watching her struggle feverishly in her sleep pulls him right back to her side. He sits beside her bed, completely powerless against his own heart. This is a habit, he admits to himself. Love makes him vulnerable. Unable to resist, he lies down and wraps his arms around her, yielding to the habit of a miserable, unrequited love. Honestly, watching him suffer like this breaks my heart. Back in his office, Shane buried himself in endless paperwork for days just to give Idline time. He planned this trap meticulously, yet he still remembers the trauma of holding her bloodied body in his arms. When Edline woke up in captivity, she buried her face in overwhelming dread. Shane knows how clever Edline truly is. She saw through it instantly. From the moment she opened her eyes, she realized that her closest companions were being held as his hostages. Shane understood exactly why Edline was staying so quiet without putting up any resistance. He reasoned that he did not need to be impatient. He simply had to wait until her guilt over her loved ones grew heavier, forcing her to stay by his side. Sitting alone at his desk with quill in hand, Shane constantly reminded himself to stay calm. This was ultimately a battle against time, but can love ever truly remain patient under pressure? All his careful self-control shattered the night he arrived late at the grand banquet. He watched Edline pull off another reckless move, wondering just how far ahead she had calculated, even letting herself get hurt by that scum just to go into hiding or delay the wedding. Since reading her actions was effortless, Shane initially intended to stand back, and watch how far she would push her dangerous game. But the exact moment that man raised a hand to strike her, something deep inside Shane snapped. Control vanished entirely. He retaliated with ruthless fury right in the middle of the ballroom. Panicked, Edeline wrapped her arms around him from behind, desperately begging, "Stop it! That's enough! What if he dies like this?" But Shane just smirked down at her. Honestly, watching his dark obsessive side unleash gives me absolute chills. On the moonlit dance floor, Edeline firmly warns him, "Don't do the things I tell you not to do." Shane just smiles softly, promising to restrain his dark urges simply because she asked. But her anxious gaze proves she knows better than to trust his idea of holding back. Looking down into her eyes, Shane quietly murmurs, "I'm glad, Edeline, that you're still so soft-hearted." When she asks what he means, he brushes it off as mere rambling. Her compassion is his weapon. He secretly plans to turn her own gentleness into the chain that holds her. Every attempt she makes to run away only fuels his stubborn devotion. He resolves that he will never let her escape his side again. If you ask me, his obsession has crossed a point of no return. Shane questions whether he has gone completely mad for loving a woman who fled from him. Yet deep down he admits this unrequited passion never truly died. Can anyone blame him for being driven to such extremes? He bitterly recalls their wedding day, surrounded by cheering guests while Edeline kept her eyes fixed straight ahead. Standing right beside her, he felt a sting of petty resentment as she treated him like a stranger. Even at the altar, her heart remained entirely out of reach. Shane gently lifts her chin, utterly mesmerized by her cold green eyes and golden hair. Simply having her meet his gaze without turning away fills him with immense relief. He surrenders to the truth. "Perhaps I will never be free," he softly admits, accepting this miserable one-sided love for the rest of his life. Morning dawns peacefully over the grand estate grounds. Down in the courtyard, Edeline's loyal companion, Lloyd, gathers the household staff to review their ranks. He leaves nothing to chance when it comes to her ultimate protection. He hands the butler a detailed list of dismissed employees without hesitation. Those who talk unnecessarily much, those who are weak to money, have all been filtered out, Lloyd coldly explains. The butler gasps in utter disbelief. How could anyone evaluate the entire household staff in just 2 days? A worried maid steps forward to inquire about the Duchess's fragile condition. She admits her deep anxiety because the Duke strictly forbids anyone from entering the bedroom. Lloyd calmly reassures her, well aware that Shane remains stuck to her side. I really admire how effortlessly Lloyd handles the staff. Behind closed doors, Edeline rests peacefully inside her quiet, sunlit chamber, unaware of the quiet storm brewing outside. Yet with Shane lingering continuously by her bed, her golden cage draws tighter than ever before. Stirring awake with a parched, burning throat, Edeline weakly calls out for Lloyd. But as her fingers reach into the dim air, she finds Shane wrapped around her in bed instead. She coolly tells him, "I called for Lloyd, not you." Yet Shane merely scoffs, claiming he is far more useful than her young servant. Annoyed by his childish rivalry, Edeline wonders why he feels so competitive toward a young boy. A sharp cough cuts her off as her fever flares. Tenderly pulling the heavy blanket up around her shoulders, Shane gently instructs her to rest her strained voice. Why does he resent her companion so bitterly? Glancing out toward the sunlit courtyard where Lloyd directs the staff, Shane admits he always detested the boy's devotion. It mirrored his own obsessive eyes far too closely. If you ask me, his jealousy knows no bounds. Shane sits up from the edge of the mattress, offering to fetch her fresh water and medicine. Yet the moment he moves to step away, a faint tug freezes him mid-motion. Still half asleep, Edeline weakly grips his sleeve to keep him near. Shane gazes down at her feverish face, completely powerless against her small gesture. In an instant, memories flood back of his young fiancée, the soft girl who promised never to leave his side, only to vanish into thin air. Can her warmth ever truly belong to him again? Shane bitterly recalls her gentle smile and long-lost promises. She always urged him to find true happiness, yet she vanished without explaining how he was supposed to survive without her. Gazing down at her feverish face, his resentment flares. He softly confesses, "I hate you for abandoning me." She showed him how cold the world becomes alone, remaining both hateful and lovely in his eyes. Powerless to resist, Shane lies down beside her and wraps his arms tight. Can he ever break this habit? I can't help feeling for him. Days after the attack at the Imperial Palace, the Crown Prince checks on Saintess Genevieve. Her guard knight admits she has stayed locked inside her room, skipping meals for days. That feels completely unlike her usual spirited self. What could be weighing on her mind so heavily? When the prince teases him about standing outside her door, Harrison blushes crimson. Honestly, his shy reaction is adorable. He stammers that he waited on his own guard duty. But the prince playfully pats his shoulder and sends him off early to comfort his wife. Their marriage started in the most unexpected way. Harrison once believed protecting her from afar was enough, keeping his feelings buried to avoid harboring improper thoughts. But Genevieve simply cut in with a sudden, "Then let's get married." Who could say no to a proposal like that? Back in the present, Harrison knocks gently on Genevieve's door before asking if he may come in. He slips inside softly, eager to comfort her. Watching him step into the room, the Crown Prince smiles warmly to himself and mutters, "Just in time." Walking down the hallway, the prince ponders the gossip circulating through the palace. People claim Genevieve's holy power grew stronger after marriage, thanks to the power of love. But is that really true? A subtle suspicion lingers as he considers the strange timing. The Crown Prince connects the pieces, realizing Saintess Genevieve's power actually surged after reuniting with Edeline. Meanwhile, inside her quarters, Edeline vehemently argues with her companion. When he teases her, she protests, "My body just moved on its own." She insists she only acted on pure instinct. Edeline explains that a normal person wouldn't attack under heavy security unless controlled by dark magic. That means the dark wizard was lurking nearby. But her companion isn't impressed by her deduction. He sternly scolds her for recklessly jumping in front of a mind-controlled assassin. Looking down, Edeline quietly admits she took the risk because Shane was right beside her. Her companion immediately delivers a sharp reality check. He asks, "Did you trust the guy who bought off a newspaper to dig a trap, kidnapped and confined you?" Talk about an undeniable point. Edeline explains her unexpected survival logic. Since Shane refuses to let her die or escape, staying beside him is actually her safest option right now. Is she crazy or brilliant? Her companion deadpans in relief that she is thinking at all, leaving her sputtering in annoyance. With security tightened after the attack, escaping has become nearly impossible. Edeline shifts her focus to what she can accomplish right now. She recalls the original novel's single clue about the Dark Wizard's true identity. The perpetrator is actually a high-ranking noble. Edeline instructs Lloyd to fetch a complete list of every noble present during the palace attack. Lloyd hesitates, questioning why she only wants noble names. But Edeline knows narrowing down the Dark Wizard's true identity is her best lead. She must act quickly. To manipulate a mind-controlled assassin in real time, the Dark Wizard needed direct eyes on the courtyard. A red-eyed creature perched in the high branches, quietly observing the chaos below. Someone was controlling the bird from afar. Dark magic leaves a hidden trail. Flinging herself onto her bed in sheer frustration, Edeline suddenly wonders why Shane hasn't returned yet. She immediately catches herself in annoyance, muttering, "As if I'm waiting for Shane." Why does his absence weigh on her mind like this? She refuses to acknowledge her true feelings. Anxiety about terrible nightmares creeps into her thoughts, making the dark room feel far too empty. She pulls the heavy blanket tightly over her shoulders, desperately trying to force her eyes shut. Sleep simply will not come tonight. Out of nowhere, a gentle hand tenderly strokes her golden hair. Shane leans over the bed, softly murmuring, "I thought you'd be asleep already." His warm fingers linger near her neck while he explains the suspect's interrogation ran long. Her racing heart finally settles. Honestly, if he doesn't want her, I do. Edeline flinches slightly when Shane tenderly touches her neck. She quickly sits up on the bed, reassuring him that her throat feels completely fine and the doctor said no more medicine is needed. Yet her forced smile betrays her lingering unease. She shows him her neck, pointing out that no marks remain after the attack and thanking him for saving her. Shane softly agrees, but his fingers rest heavy against her chin. His quiet tone carries a dangerous strain. "Your voice doesn't sound fine at all." She remembers how violently he trembled while holding her during the attack. as if his own neck were being crushed. Even now, days later, he looks down at her with that same tormented gaze. I can't even blame her for flinching under such overwhelming intensity. If he harbors lingering affection, revenge, or hatred for being deceived, she can accept every bit of it. She would let him torment her until his resentment dissolves. But this silent agony is unbearable. She looks up and asks, "Why on earth are you doing this to me?" She did everything he wished. She married him, shares his bedroom, and sleeps in his arms every night. But if his underlying motivation is love, that alone she can never accept. Fulfilling his demands was supposed to grant her freedom, yet she remains trapped in his web. Edeline turns to Shane and demands to know what more he could possibly want after trapping her here. She admits that while she tried to accommodate him after returning, staying by his side only brings her misery. "Being by your side is too hard for me, Shane. Can you really blame her for feeling completely suffocated?" She desperately begs him to stop forcing his dark feelings onto her. Part of her secretly found comfort in sleeping, wrapped in his warm embrace every single night. Yet she knows temporary peace cannot buy true freedom. Her grip tightens on her dress as the harsh truth sets in. Everyone can only survive if she leaves. I can't endure it anymore. She firmly rejects his heavy oppression and unwanted affection once and for all. Breaking the original novel's tragic cycle is the only way forward, even if it means deeply hurting Shane. I guess some sacrifices are simply unavoidable. Clutching her chest, she looks up at him with unyielding determination and utters the three final words. "Let me go." Shane stares down at her in dark silence before quietly asking, "Are you done talking?" He dismisses her rejection with a low laugh, claiming mere words could never break him. "Do you think I'd be hurt by mere words like that?" In one swift motion, he leans down over the bed, holding her chin to force an intense, breathless kiss. Will her words ever reach his heart? Shane leans down over her, murmuring with heavy resolve, "I gave up on being loved by you too." He forcefully pins her down against the mattress, holding her in an intense, breathless kiss. Edeline's green eyes widen in utter shock. She never expected him to completely abandon his restraint. How can she ever escape now that his dark obsession has taken over? Edeline panics as Shane suddenly pins her down onto the bed. Is this really happening right now? She braces herself, wondering if they are skipping straight to their wedding night. But just as her heart races, Shane abruptly sits back up with a playful grin. He teasingly asks if she was hoping for more. Shane lies back comfortably on the mattress, promising he will not push any further tonight. She quickly insists that she was not expecting a thing. Looking at him closely, she quietly asks if he is finally done being angry. Seeing his soft expression after her harsh words brings her instant relief. Shane smirks and turns her words back on her, asking, "What if I am?" He asks if she can handle it. Flustered, Edeline tries to flee and sleep in the hallway. Honestly, he's not letting her run. Shane firmly catches her wrist, warning that he will simply follow her wherever she goes. Before she can pull away, Shane pulls her down into a snug embrace on the bed. "Don't go, Edeline," he whispers into her hair. He cradles her close to his chest, softly admitting that he gets too anxious to sleep whenever she is not around. Held tightly against him, Edeline rests her head on his shoulder and feels his steady warmth. How can someone who seemed so threatening feel this safe? As the quiet room settles around them, she realizes Shane has truly remained the exact same person since they were children. Edeline vividly recalls the painful day her childhood dog, Daisy, passed away out of nowhere. Watching her sweet, innocent companion laid to rest in the garden completely shattered her young heart. She wept in despair, unable to understand how a life so soft and warm could vanish overnight. As the servants buried the dog and promised to plant flowers over the spot, young Shane stood beneath the courtyard archway, silently watching her sorrow. Days passed, yet Edeline remained utterly heartbroken. Standing among the blooming white daisies, she simply could not stop mourning her lost friend. Shane finally approached her in the courtyard, asking if that dog was really so special. Edeline turned with tear-stained cheeks, softly explaining how deeply she cherished Daisy's warmth. "Why must all living things die?" she cried. "Is it truly impossible for us to stay together forever?" Seeing her weep was more than Shane could stand. Squeezing her small hand tightly in his own, his intense gaze never left her face. "Don't cry," he whispered. "It breaks my heart to see you cry. Honestly, my heart is totally melting right now." Leaning his cheek gently against her open palm, Shane offered an unexpected proposal. "From now on, you can think of me as that dog." Edeline found his reasoning pretty strange, but Shane took it as a compliment. He was entirely content taking the pet's place if it meant keeping her tears away. Edeline turns to him with tear-stained eyes, softly explaining that she is not looking for a simple replacement for Daisy. Whether it is a person or a beloved pet, the terrifying thought of someone she loves dying scares her to her very core. She simply cannot bear the heartbreak of losing anyone ever again. Clasping her small hands firmly in his own, Shane looked straight into her tearful face with unwavering determination. "I'll stay by your side for the rest of my life," he promises. Feeling his sweaty palms and steady body heat, Edeline finds genuine solace in his clumsy yet heartfelt comfort. At the time, young Edeline quietly assumed his earnest vow was nothing more than a naive childhood promise. Wouldn't his simple attachment naturally fade away once he grew up and met someone new in the future? She couldn't have been more wrong. Seeing how hard this lonely boy is trying to cheer her up, Edeline feels her heart swell with deep tenderness. "Then, I'll make sure you're happy," she softly resolves. She wants nothing more than to secure his lasting joy, even if she is no longer by his side later in life. That quiet sunset marked the very first time she saw him not as a child to protect, but as Shane Blanchard. She never once doubted his absolute sincerity. Yet she misjudged his deep devotion as a fleeting childhood affection that time would inevitably wash away. Resting against Shane's chest on the bed, Edeline stares into the quiet room. Even after she treated him so coldly, he never once stopped holding on to her. How can she keep building walls when he refuses to let go? In his arms, she yields completely to his relentless warmth. Back when she prepared for court, her maid brushed her golden hair while her mother stepped inside. Her mother reminded her that the Empress personally summoned her, warning her not to be late. Gazing at Edeline with soft eyes, her mother admitted it felt like a dream to visit the palace together again. As her mother stepped out to ready the carriage, heavy guilt shackled Edeline. Gazing into the mirror, she saw a sinner who caused cruel pain to Shane, Genevieve, and her own family. She had done things she couldn't shamelessly ask forgiveness for. How could she ever make amends? Riding inside the carriage, Edeline desperately wished to explain her secret situation, but fear paralyzed her. If someone discovered the truth and died like in her nightmares, she couldn't bear it. I can't even blame her for choosing silence over another tragic loss. Yet, as she reflects on the past month since returning, a sudden realization strikes. She hasn't suffered from a single nightmare since coming back to the capital. Is it possible that the dark story she tried so hard to escape is finally changing? If the moment Edeline had to die has already passed without a single scratch, did she completely misread her own fate? If the real story was always about hunting down the ultimate villain, what happened to her cozy healing romance fantasy? I'm asking the exact same question. Pressing a hand against her forehead, Edeline forces herself to stay calm and stop overthinking. Even if the genre changed, her primary goal remains exactly the same. Nothing really changes. She must track down the dark sorcerer so Genevieve and this entire world stay safe. And once that threat is eliminated, perhaps a gentle future becomes possible after all. Even if the original leads don't end up together, staying by Shane's side might actually be all right. A day could come when she finally opens her heart, trusts his endless devotion, and says, "I'll make you happy," with true sincerity. How wonderful would that be? Sitting alone inside the sunlit carriage, Edeline exhales a quiet, heavy sigh. If she ever wants to turn that beautiful dream into reality, she can no longer afford to hesitate or hide. She cannot wait around any longer. Will her plan actually work? Snapping her eyes open with sudden conviction, Edeline tightly clenches her fists against her dress. Her mind is completely focused now. First target, the sorcerer. She is determined to hunt him down and secure their peace once and for all. At the Grand Greenwind Empress's palace, Empress Viola warmly greets Edeline over a hot cup of tea. Setting her saucer down with a soft clink, the Empress smiles and admits she had no idea Edeline possessed such a knack for surprising people. Edeline apologizes for the shock while sitting through the stifling gathering. Her mother sweetly instructs her to hide behind others during danger, while the Empress promises to cherish her like her own daughter. Honestly, I'd feel intimidated sitting between these two. Edline simply nods in polite gratitude. Empress Viola leans back and sighs with genuine disappointment. Wouldn't it have been wonderful if Edeline had married my son? Edeline sputters and chokes on her tea. Marry an unpredictable womanizer? Not a chance. When reminded of the Crown Prince's foreign marriage negotiations, Viola casually reveals that the foreign princess abandoned him for a rebel leader. Edeline wipes a bead of sweat from her brow. She thought her own past was wild, but this royal household operates on a whole different level. Grasping Edeline's hand, the Empress suddenly shifts to a serious tone. Could you help find a wife for Edwin during this foundation festival? Edeline flinches as Viola insists she trusts her eye for people. Can she really survive playing matchmaker for the imperial heir? Unable to decline the Empress, Edeline reluctantly agrees to help find a bride, inwardly praying she stays far away from court politics. Empress Viola beams with gentle satisfaction. Oh, thank you, she purrs, quietly musing what a tragic waste it is that Edeline cannot join the royal family herself. Staggering into the grand hallway, Edeline feels completely drained. She looks like she aged 10 years in a single afternoon. Her companion gently suggests heading back to the estate, but Edeline shakes her head. She insists on visiting Genevieve before leaving the palace. Prince Edwin interrupts, delivering a sudden, crushing blow. He casually reveals that Genevieve refuses to see anyone besides her husband, and specifically banned Edeline from her room. She specifically said she absolutely won't see you. Edeline spirals into hilarious panic. Is her dear friend really shunning her? Edwin claims Genevieve was traumatized by watching severe violence, but Edeline knows a saintess has witnessed far worse. Horror suddenly dawns on her face. Did she make Genevieve furious by recklessly throwing herself in harm's way, exactly like Shane? Refusing to wallow, Edeline proudly crosses her arms and vows to out-stubborn her friend until she gives in. If I had a friend this loyal, I'd never let her go. Can her relentless persistence break through Genevieve's wall? Edeline loudly boasts about her special bond with Genevieve, fully convinced the door will open any second. 30 minutes of pounding gets her nowhere. Prince Edwin smugly reminds her that if the saintess won't see the crown prince, a noble friend stands no chance. Refusing to back down, Edeline dramatically collapses onto the floor and vows to starve herself to death if she stays locked out. Edwin chuckles at the childish tantrum, right up until the lock suddenly clicks. Genevieve steps out with a heavy sigh, quietly scolding Edeline for playing dirty with such extreme threats. Edeline flashes a triumphant grin back at the prince before slipping inside. If I managed to pull off a petty victory against royalty, I'd be gloating too. Once the door shuts, Genevieve softly apologizes to her guest, claiming sudden exhaustion hit her all at once rather than any lingering resentment. Edeline listens quietly. Is her closest friend truly just weary or hiding something deeper? Edeline cuts straight to the point, asking if Genevieve is angry because she got grabbed by the neck while trying to protect her. Genevieve's quiet composure completely shatters into a desperate shout. Can Edeline ever understand how terrifying it is to watch her throw her life away? Tears suddenly pool in Genevieve's violet eyes, overflowing down her cheeks before Edeline can even grasp what is happening. Softly calling out her nickname, Edeline stammers in quiet confusion. Why is her usually serene, composed friend weeping so helplessly right in front of her? Genevieve frantically relives every horrifying detail of the attack, spiraling over what would have happened if Shane had arrived even a second later or if the assassin had hidden accomplices. You really could have died this time. If my best friend broke down like this, I'd feel utterly heartbroken too. Edeline stands silent. When Edeline tries to justify her reckless sacrifice by claiming her body simply moved on instinct, Genevieve's emotional restraint snaps completely. Through desperate tears, the saintess shouts that divine grace shields her body, instantly healing even the most lethal injuries. Why risk a fragile human life for someone who cannot die? Edeline attempts to counter her logic, but Genevieve's inner strength crumbles into raw grief. She tightly clutches Edeline's dress in total anguish. She was never angry at Edeline. She is consumed by agonizing guilt. I should have been the first to notice. Can Adeline soothe the overwhelming blame tearing her friend apart? Genevieve breaks down completely, crying in total agony over her perceived weakness. Even if I'm just a half-witted saintess. Hearing her beloved friend belittle herself so bitterly, Adeline's emotional restraint completely snaps. Adeline shouts back with fierce passion, refusing to let Genevieve drown in self-loathing. Don't call yourself a half-anything. Her voice echoes through the room, shattering the quiet grief. Words matter. Breathing heavily, Adeline softens her tone and steps closer. She promises to stay right by Genevieve's side whenever she needs to cry, but firmly insists she must stop putting herself down. A real friend lifts you up. Tears quietly stream down Genevieve's neck as she whispers Adeline's name. She admits she was angry but couldn't forgive herself for failing to sense and dispel the sinister black magic controlling the attacker. Tightly clutching her dress skirt, Genevieve confesses her deepest insecurity. Unlike past holy maidens who cured curses effortlessly, she feels hopelessly weak and incomplete. Can she ever escape this heavy burden of guilt? As Genevieve spirals into despair, Adeline looks directly into her tear-filled eyes and cuts through her self-doubt. You can do it. Short, simple, and brimming with absolute faith, Genevieve flinches in surprise, asking how Adeline can speak with such unflinching certainty about her future potential. Does she know something secret about her true power? Panic flares inside Adeline. Unable to reveal her knowledge of the original novel, she raises a finger with a sly smirk. It's my intuition. Will Genevieve accept her confident cover-up? Adeline offers a soft, gentle smile, stepping forward to carry the heavy weight of doubt. Then you can believe in me instead. If Genevieve cannot find faith in herself right now, Adeline will gladly hold it for her. Genevieve wipes her tears, deeply moved by such unflinching devotion. How can Adeline trust her so completely when no one else does? She cannot even believe in herself. Words heal. Adeline pulls Genevieve into a tight embrace, cradling her close until the pain begins to lift. Because I already know how amazing our Genevieve is. Held safe in her warmth, Genevieve quietly marvels at how someone can remain so unwavering from the very moment they met. Flashback reveals Genevieve's childhood was an utter nightmare. When a bucket spills on the cold wooden floor, her stepfather violently grabs her by the hair, furious over uncompleted chores. Her desperate pleas for her mother's help fall on deaf ears. Please don't hit me. Biting back against his unrelenting cruelty, the young girl breaks free and flees out into the bitter winter snow. Her stepfather chases her with a wooden stick, screaming violent threats right behind her. She had no one to protect her. Her bleak life finally shifted after Duke Blanchard brought her to the majestic imperial palace. A grand white carriage delivered her into a completely foreign world, far away from her painful past. Everything changed in an instant. Elevated as the empire's revered saintess, she stood before solemn priests under the cathedral's glowing stained glass. Yet heavy guilt tore at her heart. She knew better than anyone that she wasn't divine. What are you doing, Genevieve? She desperately wanted to confess the whole truth and admit she was just an ordinary girl. But surrounded by expectant believers, fear locked the words inside her throat. In the end, she couldn't bring herself to say a thing. Will her silent secret stay buried forever? Living in relentless fear of violence had completely shattered her spirit as a child. Young Genevieve was utterly terrified of ever returning to that domestic hell. Honestly, can you blame her? She willingly sacrificed her conscience, admitting she carried out the deception simply because I wanted to live like a human being. Even sheltered within the palace, fresh torment awaited her. Elegant noblewomen gathered nearby in the garden, spitefully whispering, "A woman like that is the saintess?" Suspicious eyes watched her every move, whispering that she had tricked young Duke Blanchard to gain power. She heard every sharp insult, yet she could not utter a single word in her own defense. The unbearable weight of guilt completely crushed her heart. Holy teachings declared that only a true saintess could save the world from total destruction. Sitting alone beneath the glowing divine silhouette, Genevieve felt terribly unworthy of her title. Her hands clenched tightly into her silk dress as terrifying thoughts spiraled out of control. What if her deception blocked the real savior from emerging? Would her selfishness bring ruin upon everyone? Driven to the absolute brink by fear and remorse, she leaned forward and gasped, I'm. When Lady Adeline Bertrand introduced herself, the bleak shadow over Genevieve's life finally began to lift. The Marquis's daughter greeted her with a bright, respectful smile, addressing her as the imperial saintess. For a girl who had known only violence, such gentle kindness felt utterly unbelievable. Invited to the Bertrand mansion every day, Genevieve shared peaceful meals and strolled through town hand in hand with Adeline. Tranquility replaced her constant terror. For the very first time, she experienced real peace. Is this what safety feels like? Honestly, seeing her finally smile brings a tear to my eye, yet that overflowing affection only deepened her hidden sorrow. Standing together beneath a sunlit garden tree, Genevieve turned back with a heavy chest and asked, "Why are you so good to me?" Adeline merely offered a playful wink, teasingly answering that Genevieve was simply cute. Her heart broke beneath the unbearable weight of that tender devotion. Deceiving the one person who showed her genuine warmth felt completely unpardonable. Clenching her skirt tightly, Genevieve reached her breaking point, her voice trembling as the dangerous truth threatened to spill out. I'm actually. Will she really confess everything? Adeline offers overflowing affection, smiling brightly while reassuring her that seeing her content is more than enough. Hearing, "You're allowed to be as happy as you want, Genevieve," only makes the crushing guilt in her chest far heavier. How could she ever bring herself to betray someone who treats her so kindly? Clenching her silk dress tightly, Genevieve makes the agonizing decision to keep her past buried forever. Fear wins out. Losing this precious sanctuary feels far scarier than carrying a heavy conscience. Can you really blame her for prioritizing her own survival? I certainly can't blame her, yet her desperate silence brings a devastating consequence. Spiteful whispers echo across the grand ballroom, accusing Genevieve of seducing young Duke Blanchard and stealing Lady Adeline's fiancé. Watching her beloved protector get dragged into a dirty scandal completely shatters her heart. She was ruining the only person who cared. Why couldn't she just walk away from the palace? Returning home meant facing her stepfather's unrelenting violence once more, a nightmare far worse than death. As she drowns in dark self-loathing, her whispered confession slips out, cut short when a voice suddenly demands, "What did you just say?" Adeline suddenly steps into the hall, furiously confronting the noblewomen spreading malicious gossip. Panic seizes Genevieve as she watches her protector hear every single insult. Did she just ruin her only friendship? Pale with terror, she stammers out desperate apologies, afraid of being abandoned. The nobles push back, warning Adeline that she is being fooled by a deceitful impostor. But Adeline steps forward without hesitation, declaring, "Genevieve is not a fake saintess, I guarantee it on the Bertrand name." She stood up for her. Hearing someone pledge their aristocratic honor for her sake completely overwhelms Genevieve. She sinks to the floor in tears. Her heart overflows. That absolute trust triggers a miraculous transformation. A dazzling surge of golden light erupts across the grand hall, leaving the aristocratic crowd completely stunned. Genuine holy power awakens within her, causing vibrant flowers to bloom in the radiant warmth. Collapsing into Adeline's warm embrace, Genevieve clings tightly to the person who gave her a true reason to live. I swear, seeing their unconditional devotion touches my soul. With Adeline by her side, she finally finds the strength to accept herself. A few days later, Genevieve feels ready to stand strong. Yet inside the grand imperial banquet hall, malicious rumors continue to swirl among the aristocrats. Watching from high balconies, nobles carefully scrutinize Adeline's recent outings, convinced she must be secretly plotting something. Spitefully, they wish for her plans to end in total ruin. Mid-sentence, the spiteful chatter abruptly comes to a halt. Ominous black feathers begin drifting down from above like dark snow. A sudden chill settles over the room. Nobles stare in pure shock as the mysterious feathers float past their faces. Without warning, the massive palace windows explode inward with a terrifying crash. Giant monstrous birds burst through the broken glass, sending noble guests scrambling in terror. Adeline instantly pulls Genevieve down, covering her body on the floor as complete chaos erupts throughout the hall. Holding Genevieve close, Adeline anxiously asks if she is all right amidst the falling debris. but outside, dark crows perch on dead branches, their eyes glowing sinister red. A colossal crimson summoning circle flares across the sky, signaling an ominous monster invasion. Can they survive what comes next? A desperate cry echoes over the chaos. This forbidden power is black magic. As glass shatters overhead, Genevieve immediately throws her body over Edline to protect her from the dangerous falling shards. Massive black crows swoop down into the grand hall, driving the panicked nobles into total chaos as they scramble for cover. Holding her close, Genevieve anxiously checks if she is uninjured. Edline clings to her shoulder in sheer terror, staring at the destruction around them as she stammers, "Genevieve, what on earth is this?" Towering high outside the palace windows, a massive crimson circle pulses with dark black magic. Terrifying monstrous birds unleash chaos as they break through the hall, cornering helpless guests who scream in terror. How can anyone possibly survive this nightmare? Suddenly, a flashing sword slices straight through the giant monster. The male lead cuts down the beast in a single powerful blow and leaps across the shattered floor directly toward Edeline. He didn't waste a single moment. Dropping to his knees beside Edeline, he inspects her for injuries and breathlessly asks, "Are you hurt anywhere?" She looks up into his eyes and softly reassures him that she is fine. Honestly, watching him drop everything to protect her gets me every single time. Genevieve steps forward to clear the air, explaining that her holy power shielded Edeline from any danger during the collapse. Relieved to hear she is safe, he commands Genevieve to take Edeline and escape immediately while he stays behind to fight. Shane demands that Edeline's safety come before everything else, commanding Genevieve to escort her to the exit immediately. Edeline hesitates to leave him behind to face the danger alone, but Genevieve steps in, taking her hand with firm resolve. "His Highness is right. I'll protect you, so please follow me." Shane delivers a swift blow to cut down an attacking monster, shouting for them to run. Genevieve pulls Edeline along, but Edeline can't help looking back over her shoulder. She watches him face the swarm with a heavy heart, whispering a silent prayer for his safety. He won't back down. Meanwhile, high on the balcony, commanders shout frantic orders to the Imperial Guards to defend the guests and bar the entrances. The Emperor watches the assault with growing concern, stunned by how effortlessly black magic breached the palace. Can the royal knights regain control of the room? From the balcony above, the Emperor spots Genevieve and Edeline sprinting side by side toward the heavy grand doors. Seeing them retreat from the central chaos brings a small sense of relief amid the madness. Safety is finally right in front of them. Just as they reach the doors, another screeching beast dives from above to block their path. Genevieve shouts a warning, but Edeline reacts instantly. Glowing divine power explodes around Edeline, creating a brilliant magic shield that blasts the monster away. Honestly, I love seeing her take charge. Edeline marvels as dark feathers drift around them, astonished that Genevieve struck down the monster in a single blow. Yet Genevieve gazes down at her hand with quiet self-doubt. Protecting one person just isn't enough. In her eyes, true saintesses of old would have dispelled the magic circle and saved the entire hall. Piercing screams echo across the grand hall as another endless flock of dark beasts surges from the crimson spell circle overhead. The palace is in extreme danger. Recognizing the threat, Genevieve turns to Edeline with absolute resolve, vowing to shield her while guiding her toward the safety of the inner chambers. Edeline looks back in growing dread. Panic erupts everywhere as monstrous birds corner helpless nobles. Even with Shane swinging his blade fiercely to carve through the relentless horde, the sheer number of enemies is overwhelming. The battle grows desperate. A towering beast looms overhead while Shane wipes blood from his face, gasping for air. Edeline watches his strain with a heavy heart. Can the knights really hold out against an infinite assault? She realizes everyone will collapse from exhaustion, and she refuses to let Genevieve be held back on her account. Standing near the distant exit doors, Genevieve suddenly halts in realization. A cold wave of horror settles over her as an alarming thought strikes. I can't help but shudder along with her. What kind of dark mage could possibly wield black magic powerful enough to lay siege to the imperial palace? Edeline grabs Genevieve's shoulders in total panic, desperately pleading, "Genevieve, I'm fine, so help Shane. This is going to turn into A disaster! But Genevieve clenches her dress in quiet frustration, berating herself for constantly being weak. Refusing to stand by helplessly while everyone is in danger, she manifests a glowing holy magic circle. Slamming her hands onto the floor, Genevieve unleashes a radiant wave of divine power that violently blasts the attacking monsters backward. She falls to her knees, gasping for breath. Edline quickly leans in to ask, "You're breathing, okay?" But Genevieve grieves in silence, realizing her limited holy magic can only protect one person. Looking out over the grand hall as the monstrous flock continues to rage, heavy guilt crushes Genevieve's spirit. She feels like an utter failure for being unable to save the surrounding nobles or grant Edeline's wish. Why does she always feel so useless when it matters most? I just want to comfort her. A sharp, ear-splitting screech suddenly cuts off her spiraling self-doubt. Danger strikes fast. Before Genevieve can even react, a colossal crimson beast swoops down from the shattered high ceiling, targeting the defenseless women with deadly precision. Hearing Edeline scream his name across the chaotic room, Shane turns back in sheer horror as the monster dives for the kill. Can he possibly move fast enough to save them? The colossal crimson bird slams down overhead with terrifying force. Genevieve stammers in utter shock as Edeline breaks away from her grip and rushes right into the path of destruction. Panic instantly takes over the hall. Will they make it out in time? Refusing to abandon him, Edeline sprints straight toward the colossal beast lurking near Shane. Shane turns around in absolute horror to see her running recklessly into danger. He frantically shouts, "What are you doing, Edeline? Get out of the way!" Reaching her hand out across the chaotic hall, Edeline cries, "Come here, Shane!" Genevieve frantically reaches forward as well, screaming for Edeline as the dark monster closes the distance. Can anyone break through to save them? A painful memory surfaces as Genevieve recalls her desolate childhood barefoot in the freezing snow. The world has never once been beautiful to me. Even when abandoned to hardship, her role as a saintess was born for one person. She exists only to keep Edeline safe. Drifting through brilliant holy light, tears spill down Genevieve's face as she recalls wanting Edeline to live in a safer world. Edeline once lovingly assured her, "Still, if you find it hard to believe in yourself and you remain anxious, you can trust me instead." That cherished promise rekindles her inner strength. She will not back down. Edeline's vow echoes softly in her heart. "I am always on your side, Genevieve." Bursting forward, a colossal pillar of radiant holy light tears through the hall, completely engulfing the monstrous flock. Brilliant golden light floods the grand hall, dissolving the invading monsters into harmless embers before anyone can react. The surrounding crowd gazes upward, utterly stunned as the creatures completely vanish into thin air. The terrifying ordeal is finally over. Down on the floor, injured knights stare in disbelief as their bloody wounds heal instantly without leaving a single trace of pain. Suspended high above them in a blinding halo, Genevieve hovers gracefully. Could this extraordinary radiance truly be the awakening of the saintess? Later in the grand office, the atmosphere turns grim as the gravity of the situation settles in. Of all places, she had to manifest her true powers in front of a massive crowd. Talk about a total headache. With news of her miracle destined to spread across the empire, her allies lay out the grim reality facing her. The assassin will be even more desperate to kill you. They warn, knowing future attacks will only become more relentless. Yet Genevieve doesn't show an ounce of fear. She remains composed, looking ahead with unshakable resolve. I'd actually be grateful if that happened. Next time, she will catch the culprits and make them pay for endangering Lady Edeline. Genevieve wrings her hands tightly, her quiet resolve filling the room as Prince Edwin officially places Shane in charge of the investigation team. After everything that happened, no one can afford to let their guard down. Shane grumbles about leaving his wife's side, but the prince quickly shuts down his romantic whining. When Edwin proposes bringing Edeline to live at the palace for safety, Genevieve immediately speaks up. "I'm against that, Your Highness." She refuses to put Edeline in harm's way, knowing the unknown enemy could strike at any moment. Shane eagerly agrees with her, even suggesting hiding Edeline in a bunker or locking her away at the Bertrand estate. Does every protection plan have to be this extreme? Prince Edwin sighs at their intense overprotectiveness, before ordering Sir Harrison to assist with the investigation. Honestly, I can't blame him for losing his patience. But beneath his exasperation, his sharp eyes narrow. A dangerous doubt takes root. He remembers how Genevieve's holy abilities remained dormant for 5 long years, only to explode in brilliant light the moment Edeline returned. Deep suspicions linger in his mind. Is all of this really just a coincidence? Back at the palace, the silver-haired lord thoughtfully considers the chaotic reports piling up on his desk. He smirks to himself, whispering, "This is getting interesting." Whatever hidden scheme is unfolding, it certainly has his full attention. That evening at the Bertrand estate, terrifying news of the palace incident quickly reaches the family dinner table. Rumors spread like wildfire despite the emperor's gag order, leaving everyone wondering how monsters could appear out of nowhere. Edeline offers a strained smile while her overprotective family smothers her with relentless scrutiny. Honestly, I don't blame her for feeling suffocated. This place feels like a gilded prison, yet being back gives her one crucial edge. She can finally summon a secret contact. Enter Lucian Cole, the notorious prince of the underworld who helped fake her demise. He greets her with a lazy smirk. "I came to see the face of the fool who got caught," he taunts, amused by her frustration. Edeline glares at him, exasperated by his self-centered attitude. Money never motivates a rogue like Lucian. He only acts for his own amusement, whistling as he admires her quarters. Is she playing with fire by striking another deal with him? Edeline fondly recalls how she saved Lucian 5 years ago, using her knowledge of the original novel's plot. Bound by a life debt, he engineered her fake death with a convincing substitute corpse, arranging her seamless escape route and quiet new home. Every single detail was his doing. He owed her everything. Lucian lounges comfortably on the sofa, bitterly recalling how Shane tracked him down last time. He points to his cheek, complaining about her husband, leaving his boot prints right here on my face. Was Shane really that terrifying when searching for her? Edeline hands him a note, tasking him to hunt down the dangerous mastermind targeting Genevieve. "I believe the attacks on the saintess were all committed by the same person," she explains. Despite attending endless social parties, no main suspect has emerged. Lucian inspects the card, connecting her request to the sudden monster invasion at the palace. "I love watching her put this confident rogue straight to work." She nods solemnly, ordering him to thoroughly investigate every noble who attended the church that day. Edeline urges him to focus on any clues surrounding black magic and sorcerers among the banquet guests. Lucian wonders why she will not leave the investigation to the imperial palace. "There's no way they'd share that kind of information with me," she insists. She needs answers on her own terms. Lucian smiles lazily and drops a flat refusal. "I don't want to." Edeline fumes in disbelief at his sudden stubbornness. Why bother sneaking into her room just to mock her? Since his original debt is already settled, he feels no obligation to play hero. He relaxes back onto the sofa, offering a cheeky compromise. He will play along, for a fee. Is she desperate enough to pay? Smirking at the former duchess haggling over prices, he gracefully decides to put the invoice on her tab for now. Watching her turn Shane's peaceful life upside down again makes every single bruise worth it. Edeline sighs, denying any secret schemes while directing him to send future updates through Lloyd. "Loud and clear, Duchess," he chuckles, bowing as he prepares to leave. Lucian waves goodbye as Lloyd steps in to escort him out quietly. "I have a feeling this shadowy partnership is going to get messy." Standing outside beneath the quiet night sky, he smirks to himself. She really is a troublesome lady. As they walk through the quiet estate grounds together, Lucian mockingly calls Lloyd a loyal dog. Lloyd clenches his fist in silent rage. "You were the one who abandoned me first, Lucian." The painful scars of their shared history still burn deep inside him. Lucian carelessly laughs off the bitter accusation with a smug smile. He reminds Lloyd who originally trained him to kill, threatening to expose his violent past to Edeline. Lloyd glares back and orders him to leave. "I really can't stand Lucian's arrogant games." Unfazed, the rogue strolls off with his hands behind his head. Lucian smirks to himself as troubling doubts begin to haunt his mind. How did a lady raised like a greenhouse flower know to rescue him in a dark alley 5 years ago? Was it really just a coincidence that she found Lloyd right after? Hidden truths surround her every move. Old secrets run deep. Edline always leaves him with far too many fascinating mysteries. As he slips through the heavy iron gate into the dark night, he smirks at the dangerous path ahead. He is the type of rogue who will gladly risk his life for pure curiosity. The grand game has officially begun. A few days have passed since the terrifying monster summoning incident. Surprisingly, Edeline strolls through the city without anyone stopping her at the mansion gate. Is everyone simply too distracted by Genevieve to notice her leaving? Across town, Shane relentlessly interrogates the Imperial investigation team while Lucian joins the search for clues. Together, they hope to uncover the mastermind soon. They need answers fast, but Edeline refuses to just sit back and watch. She knows there is an urgent task only she can carry out. She must track down the original novel's storyline to make sense of this changing world. The attack at the church was never part of the original book, but this monster summoning is entirely different. In the novel, Genevieve fought off the beast inside the Imperial Palace all by herself, proving her qualifications beyond any doubt. That triumphant moment was supposed to happen 5 years ago. Why is it only taking place now? If you ask me, the entire timeline is twisting out of control. After that battle, people who once doubted Genevieve suddenly showered her with praise. Disgusted by their hypocrisy, she abandoned them and ran into the plaza. That was where she encountered the hooded sorcerer in red, a stranger who approached her with hidden, dangerous motives. To think she is now actively tracking the very plot she worked so hard to avoid. Life certainly has a way of twisting things around. With plenty of time to spare before Lloyd arrives with Lucian's report, Edeline strolls through the bustling city plaza. What better way to pass the time than over hot tea and fresh pastries? She happily settles down at an outdoor cafe to take a breather. If you ask me, she definitely earned this sweet little break. Of course, this isn't merely about indulging her appetite. In the original novel, Genevieve bumped into the hooded sorcerer right after stepping out of this exact cafe. So naturally, tasting every cake on the table counts as crucial investigation work. A child's voice calling out for her mother suddenly pulls Edeline out of her thoughts. Pausing mid-bite, she glances over at townspeople gathering on the street, all of them anxiously discussing the recent incident. Fear still lingers in the air. Watching the crowd, she wonders about the ordinary people who were never mentioned in the original book. Do background characters even have assigned roles in this world, or are they truly living their own lives? A sudden breeze catches her hair as she looks up. Looking out over the bustling city, Edeline reflects on how much her perspective has shifted. This place is no longer just a fictional story on paper. It has become a world that is far too vivid, a genuine reality where she must continue living and fighting for her future. A calm voice interrupts her thoughts. Looking down from the cafe balcony edge, she spots Lloyd standing on the cobblestone street below. Once he joins her at the table, Edeline gets right to the point. "Did Lucian find out anything?" she asks. Lloyd promptly begins his report. Genevieve apparently went on a quiet vacation with her husband after the church attack. Honestly, that sounds completely reasonable for a weary saintess who desperately needs rest. However, Lucian's report reveals a much more intriguing lead concerning the hooded sorcerer. Lloyd looks at her seriously and asks, "Are you familiar with a place called the Brubane Kingdom?" Edeline shakes her head. He explains it is a small nation bordering the empire's western edge. Though modest, Brubane once thrived through its mining and forestry industries. But 14 years ago, catastrophe struck without warning. A massive magical explosion tore the entire kingdom apart, leaving total ruin behind. Is this ruined land where the sorcerer acquired such dangerous magic? Why didn't I know? Edeline asks, caught completely off guard. Lloyd gently explains that she was only a young child at the time. Because the empire suffered no damage, local newspapers barely gave the disaster a single line. Meanwhile, Brubane's once fertile lands withered into total ruin. Resting her chin on her hand, Edeline considers the dark history. "Are you saying the sorcerer caused it?" Lloyd admits it seems highly likely, though local rumors claim otherwise. Following the blast, a hooded sorcerer emerged who could command beasts. He used monsters to protect the people, earning worship like a living god. Lloyd wraps up his report, adding that Lucian will continue investigating the lead. Edline offers him a warm, appreciative smile. Thank you, Lloyd. Good work. I have to admit, seeing her rely on him so comfortably is sweet, but the truth remains elusive. Gazing out at the crimson sunset over the city towers, Edline feels lost. None of this was ever written in the original novel. Why would a hero who saved a falling nation attack the imperial palace? Does someone else hold the leash? Overwhelmed by the endless contradictions, Edeline buries her face in her hands right at the table. Investigation work is exhausting. She set out to gather clear answers, yet the mysteries are only piling up by the minute. Before Edeline can even process her frustration, a shadow falls across the cafe balcony. A hand reaches out from behind, gently tilting her chin upward as a familiar voice softly whispers, "I missed you." She freezes in surprise. "Shane? How did you know I was here?" she stammers out. Shane offers a smooth, dark smile, admitting he would never let her wander around unsupervised. That is when the painful realization hits her. Her own family was in on his scheme from the start. Reading the room instantly, Lloyd offers a polite bow to take his leave. Edeline tries to call him back, but he quietly steps away into the crowd. I have to hand it to him. Staying out of royal drama is pure survival instinct. Shane casually leans in, cupping her face while noticing the scowl on her forehead. When she vents about him tracking her every step, he ignores her anger and tenderly kisses her temple, whispering for her to just forget it. His devotion is possessive, built entirely on the assumption that she will always hate him. But as she tightly grips her dress, Edeline resolves to challenge that assumption once and for all. Can she break through his guarded heart? She cannot reveal her heart just yet. Edeline knows she must first catch the true villain behind this chaotic storyline if she ever hopes to survive. Only after this ordeal ends can she give Shane her honest answer. That I like him too. I really hope he stays patient a little longer. Desperate to change the subject, Edeline asks how the imperial investigation is going. Shane takes a seat and delivers a stunning update. They have already captured the mastermind. Slamming her hands on the table, Edeline demands to know how that happened. Shane casually reveals the sorcerer exposed himself by attacking Genevieve a second time. Why target the saintess again? And that's where the story is currently at. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the recap, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, because I'll be posting new chapters as soon as they come out. See you in the next one.